You are now entering a dangerous liberty zone where God-given natural rights are held sacred and exercised. This is your warning. Tyranny, fascism, and censorship will not be tolerated. Ideas will be exchanged freely. Rigorous debate and open discourse is encouraged. If you are weak and your beliefs are fragile, you should leave now. Prepare yourself. We are now live on the Dangerous Liberty Podcast. What is happening, everybody? Happy Tuesday, the real Tuesday. Yesterday I said Tuesday, it was Monday. I just proved to you all that I actually record my shows from the future. Pre-record them from the future. I know what's going on, and then I put them back in time. But anyway, great. Number one, I was not planning on doing this show today. And by the way, I just did a 2-hour show with the MG show. What a great guys over there. I want to thank Shannon and Jeff for having me on. Those guys are real patriots. They are true seekers. I will tell you, and I had them on, what do we have them on? Thursday or so, Jen?
I think it was last Thursday.
Look, I have always been skeptical of the Q thing. I think I still am. But I tell you that they make a compelling case. But besides that, one of the things I talked to them about this is like, it really doesn't matter if they believe in the Q and that they're showing now all these different things that Q allegedly predicted or whatever else. The point is they're covering the news exactly as it is, and they're breaking through some of the psychological operations that are taking place and being perpetuated on the American people against Trump. That's what's happening, folks. They want MAGA to fail. That is what's happening. They want you, the people, to fail so they can go with these globalist agendas that is going to undermine American dominance in the world. That's what this is all about. Whether we're talking about different psychological operations and things that they're doing, pushing from China, Russia, Iran, and all of the European Union, none of these entities want the United States to be the dominant force. And the problem is that when Trump is in office, America succeeds. And no, it's not a perfect administration for sure. There's a lot to criticize. I know some people are getting frustrated with the time that it takes for certain things to happen. But we did get new news today that Jim Comey has been indicted again. So we'll see where all that turns out. But we also just saw the SPLC get indicted and a whole lot of other things that are taking place behind the scenes. And folks, we don't know what's happening. We didn't know about Jim Comey being reindicted until today. We didn't know about an investigation into the Southern Poverty Law Center until when they broke the news that they were indicted. We have no idea how many other investigations are taking place, and you got to be patient. And here's the thing. This is not the Biden administration. The Biden administration, and we talked about this on the MG show, the Biden administration launched charges, launched accusations, launched smear campaigns, and then they look for evidence. All right, evidence later. This administration is trying to work within the confines of the Constitution and the rule of law. So, like, these things have to be done correctly. And look, I think we're all going to be a little bit disappointed at the end of the day because we had an administration that was totally corrupt. The Biden administration was corrupt. They were weaponizing the Department of Justice. They were going after, look, we saw what took place with January 6th. We saw what took place with the stolen election of 2020. We know that there's a deep state. These people didn't go away. But the other thing they had is the foresight to know that Trump was coming back in. And some of these people that we would like to see going to jail that we know are treasonous. Chances are they spent a lot of time and they had the entire apparatus of the United States government behind them to cover up their crimes before the Trump administration took over. That's one of the frustrating things about this and why we have to make sure that MAGA succeeds, Trump succeeds, and we do not lose the midterms and we do not lose the 2028 election. That's why, look, we're on the precipice, folks. This country is on the precipice. But real quick, I do want to say hi to everybody over in the chat. Thank you for joining us. Again, I wasn't planning on doing this, but I watched this debate last night and I was like, man, I've got to play this. And because I think there's so much important information. Andrew Wilson really does distill everything down so well. I mean, that is like, Andrew Wilson is a brilliant mind. He's clearly a brilliant debater without a doubt. And Owen Shroyer in this particular debate really does kind of play. He is the character or the caricature that we see online that is saying, Donald Trump is a pedophile, he's corrupt, all the tropes, all the different talking points that we hear, all the false narratives that we hear. And Andrew Wilson does such a good job just breaking those things down and showing how ridiculous some of those things are. And look, I kind of follow Andrew Wilson, but I don't know what he's been talking about when it comes to the Trump administration or anything else. And I was shocked to hear some of the exact same parallels that I've been talking about on the show. And we've had guests talking about it on the show. So, I thought it was really important to go through this and share this information with you and kind of break this down. But I do want to say hi to ex-Samurai, Sergeant Will, Mickey 07, Beth Rogers, Rachel Wellington, Lori Matthews, and many, many more. Yuck 2.0, Disney Up, Boiler Up, good to see you. Any of our mods that are showing up, thank you, folks. We always appreciate our mods that do God's work over in the chat, keeping things civil and trying to make it to where we have an environment where we can have honest discussions and discourse to include disagreements, but just keep things, stay away from calling people's names, and everything will be fine. Let's have real disagreement. Let's have real discussion. Let's have real discourse and pretend that we're adults. So we'll jump right into this. The other thing I do want to remind you real quick is that tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern time, we will have EJ Snyder on. We're going to be talking about making sure that you're prepared. Jen, he was what, like the 7-time, 8-time?
6-time Naked and Afraid and its spin-off superstar. Everybody, anybody who follows Naked and Afraid knows who EJ is. And most people who are in the survival realm know who he is. He's a beast in that area as well.
Yeah, so I've known who EJ is for a really long time, but what I want you guys, look, it is important. One of the things that the reason I started doing more social media in these lives and our podcast was to make sure that people are more independent, that are self-reliant, and to make people aware of the reality of the world, right? And I don't care if you are a longtime prepper or you don't have anything. You barely have, you got a couple things in the fridge. It is really important that we do not rely on the government. The more reliant that we are on the government, the more that they can manipulate us. And that is one of the messages. And by the way, that's just the American way of life, right? Rugged individualism is the way to go. So the more prepared you are. So whether you are out there, you're living, I don't know, you have your own plot of land somewhere and you have your own power source, your own water, all this stuff, you're a through and through prepper, or you've never done it. We want to kind of put you on the path to success and show you how you can get started so that you're more prepared for the next emergency, that you can take care of yourself, your family, and potentially expand your area or circle of influence when it comes to that. So make sure you join us tonight at 7 p.m. Folks, I will prioritize super chats. We'll try to get as many people in here as possible to talk about what we're going along. And because, we don't have a guest or anything like that, I'll try to do that as we go. So we're including you in the conversation as we go, a little bit different than our normal format. But let me go ahead and throw this up here. And we will big screen this bad boy. And we'll go ahead and start to play this and discuss what's taking place. We'll get rid of this chat over here.
InfoWars and continues to engage millions through his independent content and reporting. Please join me in welcoming Owen Shroyer.
All right, why did my audio just drop out? What happened?
Have 5-minute openings followed by 5-minute rebuttals, a crossfire section of 40 minutes followed by audience Q&A for 30 minutes, and then 3-minute closings. With that, I have the timer set for you. The affirmative going first. Andrew, the floor is all yours.
First and foremost, thanks all of you for being here. And before we do anything else, we got the legend Owen Shroyer. Can we give him a good round of applause? First and foremost, let me clear up any misrepresentation when it comes to my views. I am anti-Zionist and anti-Christian Zionist especially. I have done many debates on the topic, and I've won them all. I'm also very anti-Islam and consider the ideology just as poisonous as the ideology of Zionism, especially Christian Zionism. I am not a war supporter in Iran, and I never have been. I say this at the beginning of the debate, so when bad faith trolls who are on foreign accounts try to influence American politics in the comments, claiming that I'm in some way a Zionist, pro-Israel, pro-Islam shill, you can shatter the lies by simply showing them the beginning of this debate, which they won't even watch. You and I can laugh at their stupidity together. That said, I also don't believe Jews or Arabs are ontologically evil just because they are Jewish or Arabic. I represent a worldview, and I believe there are stupid and evil ideologies in this world, and those are the things I debate against and resist on a political level. Today, we debate if Trump has been successful as a president. Usually, I would clear this up semantically and quickly with Owen, but we seem to have the same general notion about what success means and doesn't mean, so we will just get right to the heart of the debate. I'd like to begin by pointing out that Trump stopping two different left-wing women from becoming president and being the first president who's a woman should immediately default him to the position of a successful president, as just that alone saved the nation from years of torment and suffering from the most insufferable vocal fried women the world has ever seen. That alone, I feel like, wins me the debate, but there's so much more. Starting on the pro-Christian side, Office of Faith, though I don't like who's in it, I like there's an office for it. Affirm via executive order there are two genders and revoke the idea of gender being different from sex. He signed an executive order stopping trans-surgical chemical alterations of children. He made Christmas Eve and the day after Christmas federal holidays affirming Christian beliefs as the ones we celebrate. He signed an executive order to eradicate anti-Christian bias in the government. He expanded school choice via executive order so we could remove our children from indoctrination center of atheists. He signed an executive order expanding Christian participation in adoption. He reinstated the Mexico City policy blocking U.S. tax dollars from promoting abortions in other nations. He enforced the Hyde Amendment to stop federal funding of abortions. He strengthened the conscientious protection for doctors and nurses who are against abortion. He supported religious charter schools. He directed the State Department to prioritize against Christian persecution abroad, just to name some of his policy directives. And that's just the Christian side. Domestically, his most major victory is something incredible. Net migration negative, more immigrants leaving than coming. Both legal and illegal, which was his primary function in office from the standpoint of voters. And this is one of the few Western nations where that is the case currently, with limited exceptions. The Cato Institute, very pro-immigration, had to admit themselves that Trump has limited legal immigration even more than illegal immigration, negating the base fear from his own base that he would stop illegal immigration, ramp up legal immigration. He hasn't. Over 130,000 less per month just on the legal side. Real wage growth is up 1.3% under Trump. It was negative under Biden. The federal workforce down 10%, which is excellent. Crime is down across the nation. Even Owen agrees with that. The Overton window has shifted right on most national conversations, including LGBTQ and transgender ideology. This isn't even getting into the historic court cases like Roe v. Wade and Chevron, which undid huge injustices in the United States. These are just some of Trump's accomplishments among many. I just can't list them all due to time. The idea of Owen Shroyer and many other anti-Trump right-wingers is accelerationism. The glaring logical hole, of course, in that is all that happens is Democrats get power, make life worse for everybody, and then they just run back to Republicans to fix everything the Democrats did and the entire time spent by Republicans cleaning up the mess that Democrats and leftists left for us. It doesn't work and can't work in a two-party system. Ensuring Democrat control by denouncing Trump and Republicans just assures a packed Supreme Court, outrageous censorship, mass migration, expansion of gay agenda, feminism, and the movement of an anti-Christian and anti-Christ-driven world. You guys seem to forget we had Biden. It was awful. And rather than continue his policies, people elected Trump en masse because life under Democrats is fucking awful. Now, you aren't going to get everything you want out of any administration. Trump is way too pro-feminist, pro-gay, and pro-Zionist for my personal liking, but we all knew that going in. He was still vastly superior to the alternative to Democrats and their cohorts, especially Harris, who wanted to roll back tax breaks
30 seconds.
And tax as an offset instead of tariffs, which is Democrat policy as usual. We knew Trump was pro-Israel. He moved the embassy to Jerusalem and tore up the Iran deal the first time around. We knew this was part of what we were getting when we elected him, including Owen Shroyer, who, by the way, was put in solitary confinement by Democrats and held, in my opinion, as a political prisoner. That's what's in store for us under Democrats. I will cede no ground to Democrats under any circumstances, as there's no alternative. There's nothing. You cannot give Democrats power, period. And with that, I'll cede the rest of my time, but just note that progressive ideology is always waiting to strike, and going against Trump is not going to help against that fight.
Yeah, so I mean, he hit on a lot of things there, right? That I completely agree with. What do you think is going to happen if the Democrats win the midterms? This, and I know we hear it all the time, it's become cliche. Like, this election is more important than any other election. And I really do believe that this election in 2028 is the most important election that we've ever had, because we know what the Democrats are going to do. Folks, they've already said it. They're going to get rid of the filibuster. They are going to pack the Supreme Court. They are going to reopen the borders. All the things that we saw under Biden, it's going to be 10x. I mean, every time that we've had a Democrat presidency, and when they control the House and the Senate especially, we see corruption, we see anti-Americanism, everything that's going to destroy this country, it explodes, and it gets worse and worse and worse. Like, Obama was much worse when it came to everything that he did policy and what he was able to actually execute than Bill Clinton. And now we see Biden that was much worse than even Obama in many ways. So even Obama had much better border security than we saw with Biden. So we need to keep that in mind of what's going on and what is actually at stake. Because if they win the midterms, folks, they will win 2028. There's almost no doubt. They're going to have 2 years of hammering Trump. They're going to have 2 years of discouraging people. They're going to have 2 years to prosecute Trump in many different ways. Like, we cannot allow that to happen. And then this is what these people want you to do. And somebody just said this. Owen is a grifter. One of the things, and I've watched a little bit of Owen Shroyer's content. I'll tell you, my perception after watching this is that Owen believes what he's saying. The problem is I don't think he's very bright. And this goes back to kind of what I've said about Sean Ryan. I think Sean Ryan is being manipulated. And I think he believes what he's saying. The problem is that he's been being fed a whole bunch of bad information. And I think this is what's going on with Owen Shroyer. He's bought into the talking points. He's bought into the false narratives. And so he's going to push this. And he doesn't even understand that he's working on his own destruction. We'll continue.
Thank you very much for that opening. We'll kick it over to Owen for his opening as well.
Well, the premise of this debate is, has President Trump been successful or not? The premise is not, are the Democrats a bad political party? I think that we all agree with that. So that is not the premise of the debate. And I feel that the very fact that we are having this debate shows that there is at least room for consideration that the Trump administration has not been successful. And while you do list off things that Trump has been successful on, and I will give credit to this administration on securing the border and lowering crime rates, quickly on those issues, though, these are not things that we should have to beg for. These are not things that we should have to consider a success. These should be things that are considered a standard. So really, that's more of a story of how corrupt our country has become, which gets to what this administration was supposed to be all about. It was supposed to be addressing the corruption head on in that collision and destroying it in the process. And I think it's fair to say that at least to this point, it's not happening. But here's some of the other issues that I think are going to be more important when it comes to, is Trump going to be successful? The economy. The vast majority of Americans still believe the economy is heading in the wrong direction. We have more Americans that are living paycheck to paycheck today than any other time in recent history. And as everybody is well aware, our national debt continues to go to record highs. But it's not just the country that's in debt. The average citizen is in debt. It's so bad now that people are having to take out payment plans for pizza delivery. Now, you might not want to blame all of that on President Trump, and perhaps that's fair, but yet this is...
What kind of idiot takes out a payment plan for pizza delivery? Like, isn't that the reason that we're in debt? Because we do dumb shit like that all the time. We're doing that at the individual level, and we're doing that at the government level as well. Just people out there being completely irresponsible and have no concept of money, have no idea what it means to live within their means. That is not an indication of how bad the economy is. That's an indication of how bad our thought process and how we approach money from the individual level to the government level, for sure.
Is the economy ongoing under President Trump? And it doesn't help when anytime there's another war on the other side of the planet, we have billions of dollars to spend on that while the average American continues to struggle. So the economy, I don't think you can claim has been a success. Tied into that is Doge, the Doge cuts. Elon Musk believed we could get $1 trillion in Doge cuts annually. We got a couple 10 million and they stopped that. There's not going to be any Doge stimulus checks, whether you wanted that or not. So Doge getting cut out cold, I think, was a major failure. Barack Obama has deported more Americans than Donald Trump. Now, we might get into the details of that today. I will spare those details for the opening. I'm sure that this will come back up, but yet that fact remains. What about the deep state? President Trump himself has posted about treasonous politicians more times than we can count. So if there's politicians that are treasonous and you are the president, then I have to ask, where are the arrests? That's kind of the biggest crime you can commit in this country, and yet nobody has been arrested. Don't even get me started on the Epstein clients, which are apparently a hoax one day, and then the next day Melania Trump is addressing the nation on how the victims of the hoax need to speak to Congress. So I'm not sure where we want to go with that, but either way, no deep state arrests. Where are all the Epstein pedophile arrests? We're not getting those. These are things that people anticipated, and yet there's no success there either. And by the way, as you mentioned, Trump's victory over the liberal women, which I think we'll all agree was a major victory. He was not the president when that happened. He's never won an election as president. Just thought I'd point that out. As far as the office of faith is concerned, it seems to be going about the same way of the Board of Peace. Nothing but vanity, no real results. You talk about the anti-Christian bias that they're fighting, yet look at who Trump is working with now. He's making sure that Karine Jean Bohler kicked off of the Religious Liberties Commission for her political takes. Yet Laura Loomer, who is a vehement anti-Muslim, anti-Catholic psychotic, somehow has the ear of President Trump. So I'm not sure if that's really working for the anti-Christian. You know, wage growth, that's going to be an interesting one. I'm sure we're going to get more into that. But I think it goes back to the general economic picture that whether it's Trump or anybody else, Americans are still struggling. And I think if we be honest here, if we're going to be honest, a lot of this economy is actually Trump's fault. And I know he likes to blame it on Biden, but if you go back and look at it, it was the COVID economy that caused the permanent damage. It was the COVID economy that resulted in 10 to 15 to 20% inflation. Those are Trump's policies. Now, Biden was obviously a disaster. I'm not here to promote anything Biden did, but that was the Trump economy. The COVID economy is the Trump economy. Now, as far as accelerationism is concerned, I don't believe I have ever publicly supported that. I do understand the concept. I understand why people like it. I'm not here because I want Democrats to win. And I think this is a very important statement for me to make because much like in your opening statement, you wanted to clarify some things that people get wrong about you. I want to clarify this. I do not want Democrats to win. As has already been documented in this debate, Democrats have put me in prison. In fact, I was put in jail 4 times for supporting President Trump, including the last one when I was put in solitary confinement. So believe me, I know how dangerous the Democrats are. The problem is, it's not up to me. This is Trump. If Trump cannot get the Republicans over the finish line in the midterms, that has nothing to do with podcasters. It has nothing to do with accelerationists, and it has everything to do with President Trump and the GOP. And ultimately, that's going to be the major measuring stick as to whether or not he's successful.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that 5-minute opening as well. We'll jump into the 5-minute rebuttals. The timer is set for you, Andrew.
Yeah, so this is just straight time, right?
You said straight time?
Yeah, so 5 minutes. He seems to be pretty upset about the economy and says that it's all Trump's fault. In some ways, he's correct, and in many ways, he's not correct. So progressives warned us of this, right? Progressives said, if you cut all this immigration, GDP go down. Why? Because they have an influx of cheap labor, right? You have cheap labor that comes in that artificially keeps the wages depressed for corporations. They can then sell you things and goods for cheaper. Pretty simple, right? So what does Trump do? Stops all this mass migration. Prices go up. I'm stunned. We were forewarned of this for years by the opposite side, by progressives. And so what's hilarious about this is that, yeah, it is in fact going to be the case that if American companies have to start paying fair wages to American citizens, prices are going to go up. But you can't have your cake and eat it too, Owen. You can't say, I want there to be no mass migration to the United States at all, and I want all my goods and services cheap. It's not going to work that way.
Look, this highlights something that we've always seen on the Democrat side, and now we're seeing the black pillars, the Owen Shroyers of the right experience the same thing, is that they are advocating for things that they don't even understand. They don't understand basic economics. They don't understand. They think that we can just beg for all this stuff or demand these things from President Trump, and he can just unilaterally make things happen. And this is something that is very pervasive throughout the rest of this, and very clear that Owen Shroyer doesn't understand how our system works. He doesn't understand how the economics work. He doesn't understand the basics of how our entire system operates. And many, many times throughout this, you're going to see this where you can see that Owen Shroyer is like, oh, I never really thought about that. I didn't realize that Trump actually, when he talks about the Epstein files and things like this, which I love the way that Andrew prosecutes these. And these are the things that I've been talking about forever. And I love to see someone that is even much more articulate than me be able to go through these and prosecute the case of how stupid the Epstein files are, and the idea that we're sitting there calling Trump a PDF or PDF protector. It's ludicrous on its face. But the fact is, a lot of this nonsense comes from just ignorance of economics, ignorance of how our government system works. And these people don't understand it. And they're acting like petulant children throwing a fit because they didn't get everything they wanted right away.
How can it? Can you explain to the audience what the Owen Shroyer policy would be to offset that? No, you can't, because you wouldn't have one. You're going to have to eat shit on that. One way or the other, you're going to have to. The other problem is, he says there's a war on the other side of the planet. That's true. There is. It's been going on for about 7 weeks. That's about it. 7 weeks.
So not
that's our big, hang on, it's my rebuttal time. I won't interrupt yours, I promise. 7 weeks, not quite the forever war that we were promised from the other side. And it seems to be ramping down. Not only that, when it comes to that war, what we find is that most of the exports in oil are going from China. They're going to China. How does it not behoove the United States strategically to do something about that? Of course it does. And we can dive into that too in the open back and forth. Now, I'm not a big supporter of foreign wars, especially not in Iran. I'm not making any excuses for it. I'm just pointing out something which is obvious. He also says Elon Musk did Doge cuts. Were Democrats going to do Doge cuts? No. Trump made that promise, and that's exactly what they tried to do. He's been hamstrung at every level. This guy has 3 times the amount of court cases against him as any other president does in the last 50 years. It's ridiculous. Democrats hamstring him at every corner. So as we go through this, let's talk about Epstein. That's another big one. With Epstein, you have to separate mythology, the actual mythology of Epstein, from the facts of Epstein. To hear the other side tell it, there is a global pedophilic satanic organization which runs the United States.
I love this. And look, this is something that I think most of us, the mythology portion of this, or at least the misconception of the Epstein files. When we all heard about the Epstein files, or at least I'll speak for myself. When I heard about the Epstein files, what was going on, what we heard was happening at Epstein Island, and what we thought the Epstein files was, or at least I did, was a bunch of videos and other documents that would prove very clearly what was taking place. We thought that we were going to see videos of Bill Clinton and some of these other reprobates of politicians and other influential people being clearly compromised on video, doing, what we thought they were doing with clearly underage children. That's not what the Epstein files is, right? There has been nothing that's actionable that I've seen out of the Epstein files yet. And what they've done is they've turned this into a political bludgeon. And so, but people like Owen Shroyer and people that are pushing this narrative and pushing this talking point, they haven't even looked at the Epstein files. They don't even actually, and they won't let go of that. It's like, no, the Epstein files, we have all this proof. When reality, there is none. And there again, we don't know what's been manipulated with the Epstein files. We don't know what has been put into the Epstein files. And we don't it's turned into a psychological operation. And what is being used is a political bludgeon against Donald Trump. And I've talked about this time and time again. Like, there's nothing in there that links Donald Trump to actionable and anything that he's done wrong. What it does indicate is that he was one of the first people to kick Epstein out of his club. He actually helped with the prosecution of Epstein. Like, that's what we're seeing. And by the way, he was the reason that Epstein was prosecuted, which Andrew covers later on. But those are things that we've all talked about. But the people on the woke right, even worse than the left, like the TDS, the Trump derangement syndrome that is taking place on the woke right is 10 times worse than I've ever seen with the Democrats. Like, these people have gone nuts. They want to basically, accuse Donald Trump of all these things, and they have zero evidence of. Again, this comes back to whatever I decide in my mind, I'm going to accuse people of this. I don't need evidence, or eventually we'll find evidence, or we'll just manufacture evidence. That's what these people are doing.
The evidence they have for that, fucking nothing. They have nothing. They have no evidence whatsoever. Guarantee you he won't be able to provide us with any evidence for that. Not a single shred. Not only that, I'll tell you something really interesting. I do know of a satanic type religion of pedophiles, and right this second, Trump's blowing them up. Right this second, as we speak, he blew up their leadership. The Ayatollah Khomeini instituted child marriage, as young as 9 years old inside of Iran. And we're killing them overwhelming. You want to talk about pedophiles? Let's talk about pedophiles. Where are they at? I can tell you who we're blowing up right now who are pedophiles. That would be Trump blowing up pedophiles. That's what he's doing currently. So it's really funny to me, the Epstein people, hey, wait a second, we're totally anti-pedophile. This is ridiculous. There's pedophiles at the top levels. They have no evidence for that. And yet, if we just look not too far away, we see that there's an entire nation of pedophiles. Do you mind doing trade with them? Right? Owen Shroyer recently said, I don't care why, or he said in his debate with Shabos, why is it that Iran is not allowed to have a nuke, but Israel is? Are you?
And look, if you've been following me at all, I've been talking about this. Don't sit there and feign outrage over alleged pedophilia that's taking place in the United States and this global cabal of what's going on with pedophiles, and then you don't say jack crap about freaking Islam. Islam is institutionalized pedophilia everywhere. We have over 1 billion Muslims, and they believe this stuff. They believe it's okay to have a prophet that actually married a little girl at 6 years old, consummated the marriage at 9, and that's perfectly fine. And by the way, the other part of this is Sharia law. I just had a clip the other day. This guy was caught graping I believe it was a 14-year-old girl, and this was in Europe. And he said, it's fine. It's okay because I don't respect your laws. I go by Sharia law. And this essentially is absolutely okay with Sharia law because she was a non-believer. This is what they believe. And we don't see that until they start to become a majority. They sit there and act like they're the religion of peace as long as they're a minority. Folks, it's a scam. It's a sham. The moment that they become a majority, or the moment they have the potential to take over, like that's when you're going to see how evil Islam is. It is absolutely incompatible with Western society. And these people want to sit there and talk about the Jews. They want to talk about our own politicians and everything else. And trust me, a lot of them are corrupt. A lot of them are guilty of doing a lot of wild things that they should be in jail for. But the fact is, these are the same people. Owen Shroyer just did it. He's basically talking about Laura Loomer going off on Islam. I am too. It shouldn't be even allowed here in America as far as I'm concerned. Or at least we should expose it for the truth. All right. They have a constitutional right. They want to practice a freaking evil religion. That's fine. But man, we should be exposing for the problem is when you do expose the truth about Islam is that you get censored and you're the bad guy. And it's insanity.
What are you advocating for there? That a whole country full of pedophiles is allowed to have a nuclear bomb? Why should we allow that? It's ridiculous. Moving through some of these other problems, he says the problems Republicans podcasting means nothing. when we're talking about Trump, especially in his second term, podcast meant everything. In fact, Kamala Harris said it herself. Joe Rogan. And the fact that Trump went on Joe Rogan really helped push him over the top. Harris regretted the fact she didn't do the syndicated radio shows. He didn't do the podcast circuit. She didn't do any of that. She regretted it. She said that she regretted it. She even blamed Myron Gaines, a podcaster, for parts of her loss. She blamed him and the evil manosphere, because they don't want women to be president, like somebody else who's on stage right now. So as we go through this, I'm kind of happy. I'd like to get into the back and forth as quick as we can so that we can see if any of these criticisms actually hold muster. He says he's not addressing corruption. Yeah, he's not addressing corruption head on. It's like, wait a second. What do you mean? He's going after the SPLC right this second as we speak. Super corrupt organization, which was working with the deep state, by the way. Just pointing that out.
With that, we'll kick it over to Owen for his 5-minute rebuttal as well. Floor is all yours, Owen.
All right. Well, as far as when this war started, obviously there's a lot of contention in the geopolitical debate realm, but at least for this administration, it started last June with Operation Midnight Hammer. And since then, we haven't gotten a lick of honesty, because we were supposed to have annihilated, or obliterated was the official word from the president, their nuclear capabilities. And then they came back a few months later and said Iran was weeks away, days away from a nuke. And so now we're over there again. And I think to most people, they perceive this war, I think accurately, as just another regime change war. Now, you may not care for Iran's leadership. You're not going to get any pushback from me on any of that. And yet the facts remain. This was a regime change war. They lied to us about it from the very beginning. There is a major contingency of Trump's voting base that voted for no new wars. It was part of the campaign promise. In fact, Trump himself, for decades, has been talking about how we've wasted blood and treasure in the Middle East, wasted it, his own words. He ran against Bush's wars in his first campaign in 2015 and 2016. And he even said specifically, no more regime change wars. So that's just a total reversal of policy on that. And this has people wondering who's making these decisions. I don't need to get into that now, but we're not even getting consistency on the messaging in the last couple of weeks. The strait is closed. It's not closed. We've won the war. The war's not over. We need to go in. Nobody really knows. And by the way, I think Trump does that strategically. But nonetheless, the truth is that we don't get any honesty from this administration. It just doesn't add up. And as far as the strategy with China and Russia, I'd like to think that this is all going to work out in our favor. I'd like to think that that's the play that Trump is making. However, it doesn't appear to be going in our favor. I think that most of the world is looking at the foreign policy of this administration, and they're seeing it as very, very favorable to Israel, which is essentially a pariah of the entire international community. And so instead of perhaps these countries maybe driving away from Russia and China, I think they're driving to China and Russia and away from the United States because of Trump's aggression, again, in the Middle East, as the world views it, on behalf of Israel. As far as the Dems, hamstringing Trump, I think that happened a lot in the first administration. I'm not really seeing as much of it in this administration. But this gets back to the deep state. I thought we were talking about criminals. I thought we were talking about the Obama administration committing treason. We were talking about them illegal.
What is he even talking about? We've had multiple injunctions that are blocking Trump from actually deporting people all over, like at the beginning of this administration. He's trying to do mass deportations. We've had roadblock after roadblock and demonization of Trump after Trump. You guys remember the freaking MS-13 guy that we deported? And they said, oh, look, he's actually just a father up in Maryland, all those things. And then they actually had a court order that we had to go find him and where the heck he was, Venezuela, Nicaragua. I don't even remember where he came from. But we've had nothing but legal roadblocks, and these are by activist judges that have been put in place by Democrats. A president, by design, cannot act alone. Like, we never wanted a dictator. I would love if Trump, if I could just give him all, I trust Trump, right? Most of you trust Trump. We think that he's going to operate in good faith on behalf of the American people. And if I could just bestow upon him, all the authority to do whatever he wanted, I would do that. until he screwed up, and then I would take that away. But that's not how the system works. We have checks and balances, and unfortunately, we've had Democrats and leftists and globalists that have taken advantage of that and put people in place that are going to cause roadblocks throughout anyone like President Trump's presidency that's going to try to get things done. That's what's happening now. And then, of course, we got Congress, and we have a bunch of anti-Trump Republicans that say one thing and try to get his approval and try to get them to help him with any sort of election, but really behind the scenes, they're working against him. So that's how this works. We do have a uniparty per se. What I can tell you is I'll take the Republican uniparty, and even though half of them I think should be thrown out of office and probably the other half, should be prosecuted, it is still a 10 times better choice than having Democrats in power.
Spying, and yet now President Trump says, I'm okay to give up my liberties for safety. I'm okay with them illegally spying on you. That doesn't really sit well with me, and I think the Dems are going to look at that very favorably when we get to the midterms. Israel does have a nuke. It is it's a violation of the nuclear proliferation agreement. They're not.
No, it's not. That's a lie. There's nothing illegal about Israel. I keep hearing this stupid talking point. I'll provide you some proof of that in a minute. They're not even part of the nuclear proliferation agreement.
Supposed to have one. Everybody knows they have it. In fact, technically, they shouldn't even be our ally because they have a nuclear weapon, but somehow they're above all of these rules. Now, again, I'm not here to take any ground in defense of Iran, but I will point out the fact that Israel is famous for repatriating pedophiles. That is a fact. Everybody knows it. American pedophiles are able to flee to Israel and get safe harbor there. We have many, many instances of this. Now, the Epstein files, I don't know how deep we want to go into this. This one is a little confusing to me. You say, show me evidence that there is a pedophile ring. Well, I would slap down on the table, not even 50% of the Epstein files. We don't even know how many we've gotten, but it's 50% max. There's not a single Iranian in the files, not a single one. Now, there is a certain group of people that are in there, but we don't need to get into that. But they all are rich, and they're not in prison, and that's where they should be. So I don't really want to have to think about Iran's cultural issues. These are Americans and people that were using them for blackmail to get leverage over our country. That's how most people perceive these Epstein files, of which we don't even have the entire files. But in them, we see references, what appear to be killing people, taking women, young women, babies as sex slaves. Who knows what else is going on in these files? There's very obvious code language. I know this. If I was able to get one of my kids' cell phones and I'm reading through this cell phone and they keep talking about pizza and grape soda and jerky, I'm going to pull one of them aside and I'm going to say, hey, what are you talking about? And if they say, oh, I'm just a pizza connoisseur. Me and my friends just make beef jerky and eat grape soda. I'm going to say, bullshit. Tell me what the hell you're talking about. If I see you saying, I'm going to get pot from my friend, I know you're not talking about a potted plant. I know you're talking about drugs. So it's obvious the same thing is going on in these emails. Where is the investigation? If your kid brought that to you, you would not believe them for 1 second. You'd say, this is clearly code language, and I'm going to investigate what it is. I think we should continue to investigate these Epstein files instead of continuing to cover them up, because I do think there is a there, as most other Americans do, and that's something that Trump campaigned on and many of his administration talked about for years.
And time with that. We're going to jump into the crossfire. This is 40 minutes, so this is fully up to you guys in responses. So the floor is yours, gentlemen, for open dialogue.
So I wanted to start, if we could, with Israeli repatriation of pedophiles. So you and I both agree that this happens and it's abhorrent. Do you know that what the numbers are, roughly?
The last story I read was a CBS story. It was a couple dozen, I think.
I think total that I could.
All right. So one of the things he's going to highlight here is the fact that anytime that you're constantly hearing narratives and these talking points, and you never hear them go over facts, that should be a real clear indicator to you that what they're doing is propaganda and BS, because facts get in the way of these narratives. And I love how, like, a lot of the stuff that clearly, Andrew has educated himself on prior to this. Maybe he knew this before, I don't know. But some of the stuff that the facts that he provided, I wasn't aware of. And we hear these things, and we don't have time to go through and kind of double check everything and prove things wrong and debunk things. But facts always get in the way of narratives. And I don't care if we're talking about Candace Owens, I don't care if we're talking about Nancy Pelosi. Once you get into the facts, it just destroys all of these different talking points. And you need to be real suspicious when you start hearing these things repeated over time and you never hear any evidence or facts that backs them up. It's just a talking point. It's just a trope. It's just a narrative.
Fine. I was being as charitable to your view as I could. It's about 200. That's a lot. It's a significant amount. But it's nothing in comparison to the Catholic Church. Nothing. Which is somewhere around 100,000 children, perhaps, or more. When we talk about this idea of pedophilia here in the...
Isn't that wild that somehow that we have this group of woke right, these conservative activists that want to talk about pedophilia, and they all happen to be and use that as a weapon against Trump, but a lot of them happen to be part of the Catholic Church. We don't ever hear anything, any sort of criticism about the Catholic Church whatsoever. All we're going to hear about is the Epstein files, which, like, there's still evidence and any of that of what we were told took place. I think that a lot of this stuff, the more I look at this, the more I realize, like, we were duped from the beginning. What we were told the Epstein files and what Epstein was doing is actually not what he was doing. But I digress, and let's hear this out.
United States, Owen. This is my big issue with this, is that there's always a red herring, right? The red herring is, well, Israel repatriates pedophiles. It's like, yeah, that's true. So does the United States in a way, though. We have passport bros who go to Malaysia, they have sex with underage kids, and then they come back here. It's the same exact principle applied. The only difference is there's no official right of return. There doesn't need to be. They're already U.S. citizens. But when we're talking about this, we know where the groups of pedophiles are. We've known this for years. The Catholic Church, for instance, again, part of one of the largest pedophilic scandals in the world. Which church do you belong to again? Is it Catholic?
I have no qualms with what you're saying about the Catholic Church, whether I identify as one or not. So go ahead. I will sit here all day as a confirmed Catholic and ridicule their pedophilia.
Yeah,
but they don't. That's the problem. They don't. All they talk about is the Epstein files and how they got to take down Trump. What they don't talk about is undermining all the Catholics that still support the Catholic Church and still support the Pope. They don't talk about that at all. I'll sit here and talk about that all day. No, you don't. You don't. All you care about is something that Trump has nothing to do with. And there's no evidence within those that is actionable. There's not a single thing that you can go through there and say, hey, there's probable cause here. Let's go get this person. But you're just going to whine about it because you've been tricked into believing nonsense.
Saying that when you use the red herring of the Israeli repatriation.
How is it a red herring if it's true?
Because the red herring happens when
Didn't you admit it's hundreds?
When you say, hey, wait a second. Yeah, hundreds.
So it's a real thing. So it's not a red herring.
No, the red herring portion of it is when you obfuscate away from the argument on the Epstein files as though there's a global cabal of pedophiles. I point out in Iran, there's an open cabal of pedophiles. You say, well, Israel harbors pedophiles too. It's like, no, they don't have official policy for pedophilia, dude.
Hold on a second. You just admitted you're talking about people that have been actually charged with crimes of pedophilia that Israel knowingly takes in. They are very well aware.
That's not in every instance.
So they are very well aware.
Sometimes it's suspected. One of the big key ones was an Australian case I'm sure you're familiar with. That was one of the big key ones, but it's not always the case that they're charged with anything. There are lots of them are just suspected of this.
There was just an IDF security official, Alexandrovich, who just got charged, caught in a bust, and he fled over there. He's gone.
Of course, but you're going to
give me a comparable story this year to the Catholic Church.
You can find the same thing.
Show me the Catholic Church. Show me the Catholic Church finding a pedophile and saying, "Come to the Catholic Church."
They moved them to other churches. What are you talking about? To allow them to continue to offend hundreds of thousands of cases.
So show me one name.
I'm supposed to remember every name of every bishop?
I just gave you one name in the last year, Tom Alexandrovich.
Yeah. My wife stopped trusting me because I never do the things I say I'll do. She just does everything herself now.
Catholic
to Israel.
Church doesn't move around pedophiles?
No, I just said they do. I
Then
can talk
why
about
are
the
you-
Catholic Church all day
then-
long.
Then why are you
But we're
arguing
talking about the
point?
Trump administration dealing with the Epstein files. That's what we're
Yes.
talking about.
So as we're diving into the Epstein files,
So how is the Trump administration, anything that the Trump administration has done, how have they covered for, how have they moved people around? I mean, how is anything that they've done when they haven't prosecuted people that Owen and others want prosecuted, when there's no evidence to use to prosecute them under our actual judicial system? How is that anything close to where we know we have hundreds of complaints and allegations against a priest, for instance, and instead of actually bringing that to authorities, the Catholic Church just moves them to another parish, moves them to another church? How is anything close to that? Like, that is so downright evil. And the fact that they have continued to cover that up time and time. And I am not bashing Catholics. I'm not Catholic. What I'm saying is like, there's been no accountability in the Catholic Church. Zero. And matter of fact, nobody's even calling for accountability of the Catholic Church. When there's real evidence, real testimony, we know this for a fact, but yet with the Trump administration, when we have no evidence, we have nothing that's actionable, we have nothing to even charge anybody with probable cause, yet we're supposed to just go and get these people and take them in handcuffs. Like, that's not how this works. This is not a totalitarian, regime. We have a rule of law to go to abide by. Real quick, while we're paused here, I do want to hit this. Let's just end this stupid talking point that Israel's nuclear weapons are illegal. All right, Israel is not a party to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. The NPT 1968 prohibits non-nuclear states that joined it from acquiring nuclear weapons. Israel, along with India and Pakistan. Do we ever hear people going around like, hey, you know what? India's nuclear weapons are illegal. Pakistan's nuclear weapons are illegal. They're in the same boat. They weren't part of this. They didn't agree to the terms of that. So they can build whatever nuclear weapons they want. But the only one that we ever hear about is Israel. And there's a reason behind that. I mean, my God, I don't think that Pakistan or India should have nuclear weapons either. I'm fine with Israel getting rid of nuclear weapons. But there's only one of those out of the three that have nuclear weapons that aren't covered under the NPT that we hear about nonstop. There's a reason for that.
give me your biggest piece of proof that Donald Trump in any way knew about any pedophilia, and name actual names of people who you're willing to say are pedophiles in that administration. Go ahead.
Okay, I never made either one of those claims.
Exactly.
But I will respond to your question. Howard Lutnick lied when he said he hadn't been to the island since he found out. He got caught lying. He took his family there. This was after Epstein had already been a convicted pedophile. Now, if Donald Trump wants to claim he has plausible deniability as far as Epstein's activities are concerned, I suppose that's fair
Are you
enough.
even claiming that guy's a pedophile?
Well, you know what? If you want to talk about the things Trump has said about
Hang on,
his daughter,
answer the question
Ivanka,
before
we can
you
talk about
obfuscate.
it. We can talk about
Answer the
Donald
question.
Trump. Hold on a second.
Are
We
you
can
going to
talk-
call that guy a pedophile?
Have
or
I
no?
called Trump a pedophile once?
Well, this is why I'm getting clarification.
The answer
on
is
this.
no.
The reason I'm getting
The answer is
clarification
no.
is because on the Epstein files, people refuse to separate mythology from fact. And there's a lot of mythology here. And this mythology that you guys continuously talk about, that Trump is in some way associated with this global cabal of satanic pedophiles, but you never name names, you never give evidence. Your only evidence is they don't give us evidence. Why would you trust the evidence that these people give you anyway? Why would you even trust that anyway? You don't trust them, the evidence that they've given you so far. So why is it always the demand is like, I want endless evidence of a thing that we always make claims about, but can never demonstrate? Why?
So Trump is obviously maybe mentioned more than anyone else in the files. If you want to claim that he has nothing to show illegal in the files, that's fine. Howard Lutnick, however, lied when he said he hadn't been there. He is still in the Trump administration. He was just running point for their meeting at the Oval Office just last week. And he's in the files taking his kids to Epstein Island. So would you take your kids to Epstein Island?
Well, okay, so are you saying at the time there was media scrutiny that this was a pedophilic island?
Yes, 100%. 100%. Epstein had already been charged. He'd already been to jail.
Are you saying this guy took his kids to the island to get them raped?
I don't know what he took his kids to the island for.
you know,
See, they don't even know what the claims are. They don't even, they won't even clarify the accusations. And this is exactly what we see with Candace Owens and all of her surrogates. Like, what are the claims? Are you saying that Erica Kirk killed Charlie Kirk? No, that's not what we're saying. We're not claiming that at all. Like, they won't solidify the claims, and then they won't provide evidence because you can't prosecute what doesn't exist. I can't go through and debunk evidence that doesn't exist. That's what they do, and this is exactly what we're doing. And that's when you know you're being deceived, folks. If they don't have any evidence, they've come to these conclusions based on a bunch of nonsense, and then they just spout it out as fact all the time. All these things, if you go through X, you go through different social media, like, we know Trump is a pedophile. We know that this guy's a pedophile. We know this guy's a pedophile. Do you? Like, how? Where'd you get that evidence? Like, where are you coming up with that from? But when you hold their feet to the fire, they won't even say that. They like to speak in generalities because generalities are great for propaganda. When you get to specifics, things fall apart, and it come to find out their claims aren't true.
He
by
denied
the way,
he denied
this again.
He
is
lied.
Absence of evidence means that that's evidence. That's not evidence.
No,
you guys
Did
never
Howard
will
Lutnick,
actually
hold on.
name.
Did Howard Lutnick go to the island?
I'm not sure.
He admitted it. He's in the files.
Yeah,
he took his kids.
I'm not sure on that particular, but it's irrelevant, the particular, because even if I grant the particular, you won't actually call the guy a pedo because you don't have evidence. You never have evidence, just claims. Claim, 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 no evidence for it. Now, I'm willing to cede a bunch of points to you. If you can show me some evidence of it, happy to do it.
So you,
Trump was, hang on, I'm almost done. Trump was
contending-
actually right. He claimed that the Democrats were going to use the talking point that, Trump's a pedophile, Trump's covering for pedophiles, the whole 9 yards. He says, yeah, that's a hoax. Whole thing's a damn hoax. And it is. The whole damn thing is a hoax. They've been calling this guy a pedophile. You just said he's named in the, how many times is he named in the Epstein files? That's a Democrat talking point. But what's he named in the Epstein files for actually doing? What?
Well, there are FBI investigations that have some pretty serious claims. They never
Not
manifested
credible.
anything.
They
That's fine.
You see, look, literally those, that's the testimony that was taken and written down by the FBI. The FBI agent says, hey, none of this makes sense. And by the way, the timelines that are provided in those statements that are basically accusing Donald Trump of some horrific things, it proved that the entire testimony is false. And the FBI that's actually taking this testimony is like, hey, this is incredible, and here's why. But he doesn't talk about it. He's like, well, there's this people that said this one thing about Donald Trump. Well, why don't you add the whole truth in there? That it was determined it's not credible. And by the way, it was actually accusing Trump of being at a location that he didn't even own that. He didn't even own that club when they were talking about that at the time period. It wasn't until like 2 or 3 years later when this person is saying this event took place that Donald Trump even owned the club that this person is saying that event took place in. So, like, you see how dishonest they are? They give you bits of information that sound compelling to the idiots out there. They're like, whoa, what do you mean? You're saying it sounds really good. Like the FBI was investigating the fact that Donald Trump did some really horrific stuff. Were they? No, they didn't. They took down a statement from somebody that clearly wasn't credible. That's it.
So really
That's
say
fine.
not credible.
So we're not here to have a debate over the Epstein files. But I
brought
do,
it up as
but
a
I
reason
do
he's a
find it
failure.
odd. No, you are the one that brought it up. But I do find it odd that you're going to pretend like Howard Lutnick didn't lie about going to the island after Epstein was convicted and took his kids.
The point.
Are you going to tell me? Hold on a second.
It doesn't help your point.
Are you going to tell me that Donald Trump was not friends with Jeffrey Epstein?
He was initially friends with
Okay.
Jeffrey
So-
Epstein,
so
but
he
he
is- so he is-
also banned him from his properties.
That's fine, and he might have helped bring him in.
Hang on,
too.
he banned him from his properties, and he was also front and center at pointing out to people that Epstein was a creep. That's one. And two, everything that's mentioned in the files, Michael Tracy has done great work on this. He's gone through them ad nauseum.
So
The
have I.
things which are put in there about Trump are ridiculous on their face.
Hold
And
on
the
a
claims
second.
from various people about Trump are noted inside of these files most of the time as being not credible at all.
Here's what's credible. Alex Acosta is the one that cut Jeffrey Epstein his sweetheart deal. It was so bad of a deal that they had to re-examine it and rearrest Jeffrey Epstein and put him back in jail in New York City.
Which administration did that happen under?
Where he was ultimately killed.
Yeah, which administration did that happen under?
The Trump administration.
That's right. He got
which is actually
rearrested
starting
under
to
the
look
Trump
a little more
administration.
suspicious. It's actually starting to look a little more suspicious now. Yeah.
How is that more suspicious? So
He
Acosta,
died in jail.
What administration?
How
did
did he die
Acosta?
in jail?
What administration did Acosta?
Trump's.
Was he in when he cut the deal?
He wasn't in office. Trump wasn't in office.
Yeah.
Acosta was an attorney.
Whose administration was that under?
Obama's.
Obama. So Obama, we have Acosta, goes ahead and gives him the sweetheart deal, right, under Obama. Under the Trump administration, they rearrest Jeffrey Epstein. Isn't that amazing? The guy protecting the pedophiles.
So
so many times throughout this, man, you can see like it on Owen Shroyer's face. He's like, "Yeah, that doesn't make sense." Yeah, I've been spewing this BS for forever, and that's not even close to logical. Like,
the person that Trump brought into his administration is the one that cut Jeffrey Epstein a sweetheart deal that no pedophile, child sex trafficker has ever seen before in their life. Such a sweetheart deal, they had to rearrest him again.
Yeah, they have seen it before in their life. First of all,
how many times have you guys seen in different news headlines where it's like this judge lets this person go for raping minors and they just let him go? We see this all the time. For whatever reason, this is actually rarely prosecuted. It's definitely not prosecuted the way that it should be, for sure. So, and again, it's just lie after lie after lie. There's like, this has never happened before. It happens all the time. This is this one specific thing that Trump coordinated and did this one specific time for this one person. And by the way, Trump wasn't even involved with this. This was Barack Obama, Acosta, and Jeffrey Epstein. But we see this all the time. And there's lots of reasons for it. Some of them are valid. Some of it's like, all right, you know what? We probably don't have a strong case or whatever else is going on with this. Let's give him this deal. He's going to take this so that he doesn't have to risk getting like sometimes there's things that make sense with this. Other times, not so much. And we see this happen all the time, especially in Democrat cities. We all know that there is a party that does not want to hold criminals and especially PDFs accountable for anything. People with violent crimes, records that have committed multiple felonies and violent crimes are let go all the time. There's one party that does that, and that's the Democrats, because they want to destroy America. They believe in accelerationism, they believe in chaos, and they believe in making sure that Americans, and especially law-abiding Americans, especially conservatives, they have other problems to worry about. If we're worried about fighting to get people kept in jail, we can't fight policy issues at the same time. It's all a distraction most of the time with this stuff.
He wasn't even accused of pedophilia. What he was accused of was localized trafficking in Florida. And yes, people have been cut sweetheart deals for that. You're full of it.
Okay, so your stance is
so
your stance is Epstein was not a pedophile and there's nothing in the Epstein files. Because I don't want to debate this the whole time.
I didn't say that. My stance is that there's bold claims which are made, and I can see you running from it. I don't blame you for running from the claims.
This isn't the debate. I'm not
don't have evidence.
You're on a
Is it a failure of Trump's
This is
or not?
worse. Absolutely.
Well, then it's part of the debate.
There should be dozens of Epstein arrests.
It's part of the debate.
They are literally covering it up.
Tell me
exactly. They've redacted the names.
Who should we be arresting? Exactly.
I'd love
what does
to
that
know.
mean?
Why are all the names redacted from the files?
Because
why haven't they
I'll
given
tell
us
you.
all the files?
I'll actually tell you. And if you had done your due diligence, you would know this.
Oh, because they're victims.
No. Because victims advocacy groups and lawyers have tied this thing up like nobody's business. And again, Michael Tracy's done the research on this.
And no pedophiles go to jail.
Which pedophiles should go to jail?
The ones that they've redacted. So
what are their names?
So Epstein trafficked kids to no one.
No, Epstein was getting kids.
So
Ghislaine was trafficking kids to him.
Okay, so Epstein raped all the kids. No one else did.
Name a single person he trafficked a kid to.
They're all redacted from the files. What are you talking about?
The files don't even indicate that.
You can see in the emails. He says, "I have girls. How old do you want them? I have girls. I don't like yellow. I want Russian." That's all right there.
That's not him. There's nothing to do with pedophilia, as far as you know. Show me some evidence.
As far as you know, it does.
Wait a second. Absence of evidence is not evidence. Do you agree with that?
No, I'm using your logic against you. If you're saying
my logic
doesn't
works
prove
for
anything,
me and not for you.
Okay, so
I just have flashbacks of talking to freaking Zach and debating him. This is the same silly, childish logic that's used every single time. Well, you don't know. It's still possible. It could have happened. No, like you don't have any evidence for it, dude. You don't have evidence. Quit making claims that you can't back up. Well, it could have happened, and I could have seen Bigfoot.
I'll accept this because I don't want to debate. So Epstein was not a pedophile. He was not trafficking children, anybody. He was not friends with Trump. They're not covering up. They're not covering up the files.
I'm willing to see the distinction between the mythology of Epstein trafficking children to all of these various pedophiles is a mythology. I'm also willing to see that Epstein himself may very well have been a pedophile, but it seemed like the trafficking was going to him. And you have no proof to the alternative of that. And even when you point at Acosta,
so what is
this happens under Obama, rearrested under Trump. Trump's the only one who released any Epstein files at all, signed in the Epstein Transparency Act.
Yeah,
Congress
after they redacted them for weeks, they still haven't
because
released
of victims.
everything. They still haven't released everything, by the way.
How would Trump unredact them? Can you explain that to me?
Well, they shouldn't be redacted at all.
Yeah, but how would Trump unredact them?
Well, it's actually pretty easy. I think he calls them and says, hey.
No.
Listen to this clown. It wasn't Trump that determined what was redacted or not. That is determined by judges and lawyers. Those are court orders of what is and what is not redacted, just like we see with the Tyler Robinson case. Who can speak, what information they can release, what information they can't. It has nothing to do with Trump. And Shroyer doesn't know this. Just like half the morons out there, they're like, well, Trump just couldn't release everything. No. This stuff is tied up within the justice system. And there are all kinds of advocacy groups, lawyers for the victims that don't want names released. Like, this has nothing to, this is outside of Trump's purview. And he doesn't even understand that. He literally thinks Trump just can declare whatever. And like, this is what's going to happen. You don't even understand what is happening. You don't understand the mechanisms in place that are the problems that you're accusing Trump of have nothing to do with Trump. And this is what we see all the time. Like, people are just dumb. They're dumb and they make claims. They think, oh, well, if I was president, I could just wave a wand and things would happen. That's not how it works at all.
Unredact these.
No. That's the judicial branch. That's a different branch of government.
And he can call them and
Trump's allowed to do that with classified documents. Not allowed to do that with redactions. Those redactions are going through the judiciary. So what should Trump do here?
He can easily declassify. He can easily release everything.
They're not classified. They're redacted.
Then why aren't they released?
He did release them.
Not
he
all of them.
Millions of documents.
Not all of them.
And not only that, again, how would he get them unredacted? Tell me.
Not even all of them. They're not even all released.
How would he get them unredacted? How?
It's very simple. You bring out the investigators and you simply read the names that are redacted. That's all you got to do.
You mean like they did in front of a press club and those poor guys who weren't actually pedophiles got calls and threats and everything else?
That happened to one guy.
Yeah, but I mean,
one guy.
That's reading the names of people who aren't even related to it.
Okay,
and this is the problem,
So
man.
this is good. So you're satisfied with the Epstein files.
I didn't say satisfied, but I'm pointing out that I'm not willing to make claims that Donald Trump's a bad guy based on redactions that he's not responsible for. You can't tell me how he should unredact them. You can't tell me
it's very simple. I want
the
all the
victims
files.
are. You
Show
can't
me
tell me
all
any
the
of this.
MBag6463 says, saying he's spewing Democratic talking points when he's a supporter all along and is disappointed with Trump's performance. It doesn't matter. Like, good Trump supporters or anybody else can get tricked by talking points. That's why they have them out there. Do you think that the talking points are to convince Democrats of this stuff? No, they're not. Just like Republican talking points aren't designed and engineered, by the way. There's like lots of people that go through these, like, how do we message this stuff correctly? How do we message this stuff correctly so that we can reach the most amount of people? And they go through and they engineer these talking points. And it's not to convince Republicans of Republican talking points. It's Democrat talking points are not to convince Democrats of Democrat talking points. It's to reach other people. And unfortunately, we have a very sophisticated or fairly complex psychological operations that are taking place that are being used. What we have is former conservatives like Candace Owens, Owen Shroyer, and the like are now pushing these narratives that are absolutely Democrat talking points. This is the same thing that the Democrats have been saying from day one. Like, there's nothing different here, folks. They've just kind of sidestepped. They've changed the same strategy. They've altered it slightly. And we can see how similar they are. First, it was Russia, Russia, Russia. Now it's Israel, Israel, Israel. That's how these work. Like, people get tricked all the time. Just because that Owen Shroyer was a supporter of Donald Trump doesn't mean, and we clearly see that he is ignorant of so many of these elements, and he's being tricked. His ignorance is being used against him. Somebody said, hey, Donald Trump has the authority. He could do this if he just wanted to. And if I thought that, I would be upset at Donald Trump too. Like, well, Donald Trump could just unredact all this stuff. Why isn't he doing that? Yeah, Yeah, clearly he's in on it. No. It's not. It's not his decision. He doesn't have that authority. This is tied up in the courts.
What do you mean? The victims go in front of Congress every freaking day.
I only want to jump in just because, given that we have only 40 minutes for the open dialogue, though it's been epic so far. I just want to be sure if there are other topics you want to cover. We have 28 minutes left.
I would say,
can we move on to the economy?
The Epstein files is a debacle and a disaster for
the releasing of the Epstein files was a debacle. I agree with that. The problem is that what I'll never accept is lack of evidence being evidence of a thing. And while you pretend that there's a global pedophilic ring that you have no evidence of controlling the United States, I can show you a global pedophilic ring which exists right out in the open that Trump's blowing up right now.
So Epstein didn't put a bunch of security cameras in all of his places. That didn't happen. He wasn't working with Maxwell.
Look at the logic that these people use. And again, these generalities. Oh, he had cameras, he had security cameras set up in different places. Oh, that's proof. Andrew hits this pretty hard, pretty effectively.
The daughter of the top.
Yes, he worked with Ghislaine Maxwell. Yes, there were security cameras in his various places. All of that is correct. That's, again, asking questions, not providing evidence.
So what does he do that for?
Wait, there's cameras here. What's that evidence?
This is an event. This is a televised event.
Yeah, but what's the evidence of?
Who is Epstein televising what's going on in his room?
He wasn't televising anybody. Got any proof?
So why are there cameras installed?
Because the same reason rich people have cameras all over their houses.
So he has them in all of his bedroom secret cameras?
What secret cameras? Can you show them?
Yeah, they're in the emails. He literally hired IDF security people to put secret cameras in all of his rooms.
No.
He had a damn security room with monitors in his mansions.
You're talking about one specific instance in one specific room, by the way, not on all of his properties and not in the Florida properties. And those are the ones where he got convicted of all these things. So what are you talking about? You're talking about a completely unrelated thing to what I'm asking you. Do you have evidence that Trump was part of a global pedophilic ring or that anybody was?
Yes.
Okay,
absolutely.
Give me your best piece.
The Epstein files.
Best piece in the Epstein files.
The whole freaking thing. What are you talking about?
Nothing.
Okay, so hold on. So was Epstein convicted?
All of it.
Not of pedophilia.
Yes, he was.
Okay, who?
Was Maxwell convicted?
I'm sorry.
Was Maxwell
I'm sorry. When was Jeffrey Epstein convicted of pedophilia?
Epstein, jail. Maxwell,
when
jail.
was Epstein
Jean-Luc
convicted
Brunel,
of pedophilia?
jail.
When was
two of them committed suicide
when was Epstein
in jail.
Convicted of pedophilia?
I think whatever the first charge was, in 2007 in Florida.
That's not. He wasn't convicted for pedophilia.
Trafficking children isn't pedophilia.
First of all,
so now you're saying Epstein wasn't a pedophile?
He was doing underage. There was one or two of the underage prostitutes that came from the school. That's true. But I think
that's underage.
I think they were 16, 17, not prepubescent children. It's a whole different ball game. He wasn't convicted of pedophilia.
Okay. So Epstein wasn't a pedophile. Glad we got there.
I didn't say Epstein wasn't a pedophile. I said you haven't given us any proof he is. Got some?
There's no proof Epstein wasn't a pedophile.
Oh, I'm going to use an argument from incredulity.
He killed himself in jail. Nothing to see here. And we should probably pardon Maxwell too.
I'm totally incredulous, but I have no evidence of my claims.
Just because the economy is another topic we might want to cover still while we have time. We do still have about 25 minutes.
Anyway, so I try to operate off of facts basis. What happened, I'll just sum this up real quick, and then I'll give you the last word on it, to be fair. I'll just summarize it very quickly on Epstein. Epstein very well could have been a pedophile and likely was himself a pedophile. But when you make these claims about demonic global pedophile rings which control the United States, I want some evidence. I do. And I'm not willing to throw the president of the United States that I voted for under the bus without any evidence. I'm not. So, if you want to tie it off, you can.
Well, I'll just say we also saw in the Democrat emails spirit cookings and children in the hot tub entertainment. But there's no evidence of pedophile rings.
You're talking about Podesta spirit cooking?
I'm sure
the big art project spirit cooking?
That's right.
Yes. Leon Podesta, who was part of a massive art project for spirit cooking, along with, how about we talk about Rocket Pizza? Did they have babies underneath there, Owen? Did they have children in the basement, Owen?
Good opportunity to go into the economy.
Yeah. All right. So moving into this, I just got a single question for you. Owen, how would eliminating mass migration into a net negative not cause economic downturn or higher prices? How is that even possible?
Well, it's actually, there's a simpler fix to that. And that is you have to cut taxes. You have to cut them significantly. You have to cut them immediately. Mm-hmm. Americans are paying roughly 30% of the money that they make plus the property that they own That number needs to be single digits tops. And a lot of Americans will have a little more money to take care of their bills and take care of their family. But we're not really having that happen. Now, I feel like this whole argument is assuming that Americans don't want these jobs.
No, it's assuming they do. In fact, my argument to you is just, I'll simply state it. If it's the case that we bring in, I don't know, 100,000 immigrants tomorrow to California, let's say, okay, and they're willing to take $10 an hour less than the Americans who are there, would you agree with me that that'll probably save you prices in goods and services from whatever that corporation is or company?
Probably.
Yeah, probably. So like if you took McDonald's and you paid them $25 an hour, your cheeseburger is going to get more expensive. You agree with that?
Mm-hmm.
So you can offset that with immigrant labor. Do you agree that that's likely true?
Yes, but I don't believe that's the solution.
I agree with you. But if it is in fact the case that Trump is doing his job, which it seems like he is, since we have negative net migration, why wouldn't it be the case that if we're deporting all of these illegals and they're self-deporting in an overwhelming rate, of course your localized food prices are going to go up because most of these jobs are now going to Americans. In fact, this is exactly what Cato is saying.
All right, I want to throw this comment up there because this is not what's happening at all. Can't believe that Andrew defends Epstein, Pizzagate, and Satanic Panic. No, what he's saying is don't believe things without evidence in bags. Like, what evidence do you have that Epstein was doing all the things that he was doing? We don't have any evidence. It could be the left trying to trick you. It could be the right trying to trick you. It could be anyone in between. But we don't have any evidence. We don't have any evidence that Pizzagate's real. We don't have any evidence of the Satanic Panic and all this other stuff. We believe these things are happening, but you don't have any evidence of it. And like, that's all he's saying. And that's how you stay grounded, by the way. That's how you stay grounded. If you're believing in things, if you have faith in things without evidence, that's called religion. All right. You're approaching this in a supernatural way and not in a logical, sensible way. That's just the fact. And so anytime that anybody, like, I don't want to be tricked from anybody. I don't want to be tricked by Republicans. I don't want to be tricked by Democrats. I don't want to be tricked by social media personalities. Like, give me the evidence. I'm willing to buy it. Like, I want to kind of believe, there's a part of me that wants to believe that, you know, Hillary Clinton is satanic and, you know, is doing all the things that we've heard when it comes to Pizzagate and other things. And maybe it's true, but we don't have any evidence of it. We hear a lot of, we've heard all kinds of, you know, all these stories. It's just like he was talking about. We've heard these myths. That's what we hear. We hear myth. That's all we hear all the time. And we want it to be true, but we have no evidence of it at all. And this is the problem. It's when you get yourself caught into believing things without evidence, it goes down a path and you are more likely to be misled, period. That's not how our system works for a good reason. Thank God. That's not how we as Americans should operate. We need to be logic, reason, evidence. Those are the things that should guide us every single time.
Saying we're getting hurt mostly in the economy because Trump is not even letting legal immigrants come in. I thought that was what we wanted, man.
That's exactly right.
We want to stop that legal and illegal immigration. But it's like, not if your fried chicken's going to go up 30 cents. What are you talking about? We want that, right?
Well, the deportation numbers are not where they need to be. I don't know how much that falls into the economic realm of things. Obama deported more people than Trump. So we're not.
There was a lot more
people
people to deport.
But I think that there's other reasons for that. I think that this gets into the, let's say, failures at the Department of Justice, which maybe they're just starting to get into with the SPLC. But I don't know. We'll see about that if we come back to that. We're being told as Americans, hey, buck up and pay more for gas. It's this war in Iran. You've got to buck up. It's your patriotic duty to pay more for gas. That is a war that's being fought in the foreign and special interests. Do you think Americans might be willing, instead of paying another extra $1 per gallon of gasoline, maybe an extra 10 cents for a cheeseburger if they know that means Americans are taking the job? I mean, that's essentially what we're being
But most
asked.
Americans don't know that because even people on my side are running around saying Trump's not deporting enough people, even though we have a net negative in migration right now. Those
Well, we do
jobs,
have a closed border.
hang on, those jobs, yes, a closed border and net negative migration, legal and illegal. More people are leaving than coming. That's for the first time we finally got that. It's like, yeah, prices are going to go up from that. You know this. Why not be honest with
prices
people?
went up
If
from
that's the
prices.
case,
No,
and then we
prices
talk
went
about
up from
gas. Hang
tariffs.
on, I'm almost done.
Prices went up from tariffs.
Okay.
Prices went up
You
from
want to get
energy.
into tariffs? We can do that in a second, but let's start with the gas prices. All you're doing is pitting Trump against Trump. On the Biden level, at his top, do you know what the gas prices were?
About right where they're at now.
Nope. Way more. They were over $5.50. Yeah, they're $1 cheaper right now at the peak of Trump than they were at the peak of Biden. So you're only comparing Trump's gas prices to Trump's gas prices. Because if you compare them to the Democrat, they were still way higher. I mean, way higher.
But
now,
when did the price go up?
Trump speculation mostly.
No. When did the price go up?
Oh, I thought you said why did the price go up?
When did
the price has been going up steadily and decreasing
since we
steadily.
attacked Iran?
Yes, correct. Due to what? Market speculation. And you can't control speculators, and neither can Trump. It's not because we have some supply shortage of oil. Where's our shortage? Nowhere. We're not getting oil from Iran. We don't even have the processors for their oil. That goes to China. So we have no shortage, but our oil.
All right, just to give everybody a little context of this, let's talk about some just basic facts. Facts cut through all these talking points every single time. The highest price of oil under Biden was $133 per barrel. The highest price under Trump was $117. And it's back down, by the way. I'll look at it today. I'm sure it's under $100. The other day it was like $89. I'll check that price. As of April 28, 2026, the current national average price of gasoline is $4.18 per gallon. $4.18 per gallon. Under Biden, the highest national average hit $5.11 was the highest under Biden. So that's where we're at with this. And I'll look up today's oil price. But again, I was arguing with people when the Iran war broke out. They were saying, hey, you know what? Oil prices are going to go up to $140, $160, up to $200 per barrel. That's what they were saying. I'm like, hey, come check with me in 2 weeks. You're full of crap, because number one, we don't get oil from the Strait of Hormuz. Just like what Andrew's pointed out, this is all about speculation. We have an overabundance of oil here in the United States. Our production is up. And by the way, our exports are going through the roof. So this is helping the American economy. And when we put an end to the IRGC and we take over as a much more reliable exporter of oil, where all these other people were trying to get oil from, now we're backfilling those needs, and they're going to turn to the United States. This is going to be a net positive for the economy ultimately. So again, these people just push these talking points. They don't even know what they're talking about. They don't understand the policy behind them. And he didn't even know what the prices of oil and gas were under Biden. Without a war.
Oil prices go up. Why? Because of speculation. And you just completely omit that. Not only do you omit that, but you omit this other part, which is you still haven't explained how it is that we're going to have net negative migration and prices aren't going to go up.
Hold on a second. Trump is the one that claimed that he could get gas prices down. He's the one that made that claim.
And it hasn't happened. They're lower than Biden's peak by $1.
No.
Yes.
Okay, but we don't even know if we've seen Trump's peak. If this war in Iran doesn't end,
you can't just say, well, I'm incredulous, they may go up more. They're actually going down. They've been going down steadily.
Gas prices are going down?
Yes, they're going to be going down. Yes. And speculators, by the way, are speculating that, which is why they're going to be going down. Interestingly enough, when we're talking about oil prices, though, and gas prices, yes, at Biden's peak, they were $1 more than they are the national average right this second as we're talking. I even made sure this morning before we came in, just to be sure. And yes, that is in fact the case. So it's like you're only comparing Trump to Trump, and even with him blowing the shit out of pedophiles in Iran, like the Ayatollah Khomeini, he still managed to give you $1 cheaper gas than Joe Biden did.
But you just said it wasn't Trump. You just said it was the speculators. Now you're giving credit to Trump. So I don't know what, I'd like a little consistency.
Okay, so wait a second. So you're going to blame it on Trump instead of the speculators. But when I say even under those circumstances, it's $1 cheaper, that can't be because of Trump.
Let's be clear. No. Here's
I want the consistency.
No. Here's my metric. Yeah. Trump said on his campaign he would get gas prices down.
He did.
He hasn't done it.
Yes, he has.
He's even admitted that we had to take a detour off of America First to do this war. He said it's over. It's not a war. It is a war.
He has gotten the gas prices down.
Gas prices have gone up since we started the war.
Yes, gas prices went up when we started the war due to market speculation.
So Trump started a war, and now gas prices are higher. That's the fact.
But you're only comparing Trump to Trump. And if you're going to compare him to
I'm
Biden,
comparing,
gas is still cheaper than the Democrats.
This administration to this administration.
Exactly.
Gas prices have gone up since he started this
Yes,
war.
and if you follow Trump's plan, gas prices are likely going to bottom out because he has control of oil there.
That's a nice
control
hope.
over oil in Venezuela.
That's a nice hope.
He has control over all of it.
No, Venezuela oil won't be ready for probably months.
But we still have control of it. What did I say? In the future, it'll go down.
We'll see. I hope that's the
Speculators
case.
say the
I hope
same
that's the
thing.
case. But that's not the case right now. And Americans are struggling financially. And now here we are in another war in the Middle East, and we're sick of it.
Are you going to blame? Are you going to blame market speculators?
I'm going to blame Trump for getting us into another war on Israel's behalf. Yes, I am going to blame Trump for that. He did that.
So help me out here. Can you tell me all of the downsides of Donald Trump killing pedophiles in the Middle East?
First of all, do you know every single person? Were those schoolgirls pedophiles?
It's institutionalized in the Iranian.
Just no. Were the 200 schoolgirls pedophiles?
I want to make sure that they're alive so they can get raped. But that aside, no, of course not. But there's going to be deaths inside of a war.
Okay, so it is a war.
Yeah, I didn't say it wasn't a war.
Does he need
I'm not going to
congressional
quibble
approval?
over the word, even though there's no ground invasion, there's no boots on the ground, there's none of that. I just want to know, how is the global interest served? You're so concerned about pedophiles. He killed one of the most major ones who's ever existed since the late 1970s. He
was friends with Epstein.
He put it inside of the
bigger,
Constitution of Iran that you can marry 9-year-old girls, dude. And by the way, Khomeini,
that's good.
Khomeini,
So,
hang on, almost done. Khomeini was married to a 15-year-old. Perhaps by the lunar cycle could have been 14. His son was married to a 14 or 15-year-old. A lot of his high command were married to children as well. Trump killed all of them without a single boot on the ground.
Great. And I'm sure after we've killed thousands of Iranians, including young schoolgirls and the entire family, I'm sure that the Iranians are going to be less radicalized because of that. So I'm not
radicalized. What do you mean? How do you get more radicalized than marrying children, dude?
What do you think they're going to stop?
What are you talking about?
You think they're going to stop?
No. Well, I'm just saying, how do you get more radical? You're like, oh, the Iranians are going to get more radicalized than marrying kids?
Well,
like all the United States blowing up the pedophiles is going to really make them mad.
How many countries has Iran been bombing this year?
Well, Iran is a state sponsor of terrorism. You agree with that?
And is Israel a state sponsor of terrorism?
I think that Israel's done many terrorist actions.
Is America a state sponsor of terrorism?
I don't think that America generally is a state sponsor of terrorism.
Okay, well, in the Obama administration, it's very well known we were arming moderate rebels that turned into ISIS and turned into ISIL. So America backs these proxy groups. The CIA backs these proxy groups.
But that was due to Bush doctrine. Most of
and
that
now Trump isn't. Now Trump is Bush.
Trump has when? Where's the forever war?
We're in the Middle East.
Not a single boot on the ground.
We've been in the Middle East the majority of Trump's administration.
Is there a single boot on the ground in Iran?
We have been at a war in Iran
question, bro.
since.
Is there a single boot?
Yes.
Okay, where?
That's like
where?
All over the Middle East. We got boots on the ground.
No, in Iran.
We got boots on.
All right, let me hit a couple points right here because first of all, how many different countries has Iran bombed this year? Let me answer that for you. Israel, United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, Oman, Jordan, Iraq, Syria, Turkey, Azerbaijan. All right, 12 countries that Iran has bombed this year, and most of those, by the way, those were civilian targets that were targeted. Intentionally targeting civilians, just because if we bombed, and I think the jury's still out on that. If we bombed that schoolgirl, the girls' school, folks, that was an accident. We don't do that. We wouldn't waste the time. We wouldn't waste the money on bombing a girls' school. It is so dumb. And by the way, it was a girls' school that was attached to a military complex. Like. That's weird that they would do that, right? The other thing, too, what he's talking about is regime change. I bet you if we actually, because we've conflated some terms here, or regime change itself has been confused of what it actually means. We did a regime change in Venezuela, and it took less than a day. None of us are actually opposed. I think most of us are not opposed to regime change. If we could just go change out the regime in Iran, I think we would be completely happy with that. The problem is regime change here in the United States in the vernacular has been conflated into these forever wars. We did regime change in Iraq. We did regime change in Afghanistan. It took us 20 years. We didn't do regime change in Iraq or Afghanistan. What we did is we did an occupation, not about regime change. The regime was changed within a couple of weeks of the war. Everybody remembers when Saddam Hussein, number one, he fled almost immediately. And on top of that, we caught him, months later in a spider hole. So regime change is not what people are worried about. Regime change is what people are actually worried about is getting into a country, putting tens of thousands of Americans at risk and leaving them there. We would be better off if there was regime change in Iran. And regime change can happen in Iran, and it can happen without boots on the ground. There's many different ways that could take place. I think most of us would actually prefer a regime change in Iran compared to what's there. We cannot have a homicidal, suicidal death cult that's in charge of nuclear weapons sitting around the world. Like, we just can't allow that to take place. That's stupid. That's irresponsible. And if we're worried about any sort of thing, like, we don't want to get involved in a war, but I promise you, if we allow them to build a nuclear weapon, we are going to be involved in a much more dangerous war, a much more prolonged war, but it's going to be our kids or grandkids 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now. You're guaranteeing a prolonged war with a lot of casualties if you allow the IRGC to stay in place, and especially if you allow them to have a nuclear weapon. My wish for the Trump administration is that we ensure that there's regime change. And I think we can do that by continuing to strike them, continuing to put pressure on them while we actually arm the populace. That's what should take place. And you know what? I'm okay with close air support from our people covering their people as well. You give the Iranian people weapons, you give the Iranians some radios so that they can coordinate attacks with the United States using air support. I'm all about it. We need regime change. What we don't want to do, and I agree with everyone, is we don't want to turn into this long drawn out war, this prolonged war, where the next thing you know, we got billions of dollars being made by these defense contractors that are, building bases there, that we're housing Americans there. We have troops on the ground there. I don't want that. Nobody wants that. But that's not war. That's what the the Bush administration did. That's what the Barack Obama did, because there was a lot of money to be made doing so. It wasn't war. That was something else entirely. That was the military industrial complex figuring out a way to get rich at the cost of U.S. lives, by the way.
The ground.
Where's our
In the
invasionary
strait.
force?
We got people in the strait. We're talking about going to Karg Island.
Oh, we had 7,000 people there, and now there's 10,000 people there.
So-
Where's the big invasionary force to take over Iran?
So, okay,
Where's
fine.
that?
I'll tell you what.
Where's
if,
that?
If they do go into Iran, what will you say
Yeah.
then?
Well, at that point, I'm done.
Okay, fair enough.
It is the case.
Fair enough.
I've drawn the line for myself that if there's a ground invasion in Iran, that would be a continuation.
What about casualties?
Hang on. That would be a continuation of the Bush policies.
What about casualties?
Hang on. Let me finish the point, and I'll get to casualties too. If it's the case that there's a mass ground invasion of Iran, then yeah, I would have full support then, because that would be a continuation of Bush forever war doctrine. However, limited strikes like what we saw in Venezuela, or 6 to 8 weeks, which is what we're seeing right now, that's not enough to pull my support from this president, especially with all of his success in domestic policy. Even if I grant you, and I'm not a fan of the war, I'm not an advocate of it, but even if I grant it that it's the worst thing he could have possibly done, it's not going to change the fact he's been a successful president. His domestic policies alone in eliminating crime and mass migration and being a net negative, that's what people wanted more than anything. It wasn't just the forever wars. It was the mass migration. That's what Trump always harped on. And he's been after it and after it and after it. And he did deploy the National Guard to protect these various centers in these cities while ICE was removing these people from the nation. Democrats did everything that they could do to stop him, including court cases, terrorism against them, and everything else in between. So it's like all of those show me that the guy is very successful, even if I grant it to you how bad Iran is.
Well, I think that they made a major blunder on the deportations, because now they're basically stopping them. They should have gone after the Democrats first. Quite frankly, they should have been arresting Democrats for treason.
What?
Alejandro Mayorkas should have been the first arrest. He should have been hauled in front of Congress. And you're a little too late going after the SPLC, in my opinion, which is now being, funny enough, it's actually being directed at the right. They're now using this SPLC thing to claim that anybody that's a dissident on the right is paid for by leftists and needs to be censored. That seems to be the theme with that. But they should have gone after all of these groups right out of the gate, Andrew. They should have gone after all the...
Problem is you got to have probable cause. And the problem is that we're not the Biden administration. You got to have crimes that you can, number one, charge, and then ultimately provide the evidence to prosecute with. Like, that's a challenge when you have a corrupt government in charge of everything, and they can get rid of evidence, or they can conduct themselves illegally in a way that's easy to cover up. or a way that's easy to obfuscate, and or say, oh, well, I was just doing this. Or like, they have literal lawyers helping them to commit these crimes. Like, do you know people that understand that? Like, how do I do this? I want to do X, Y, and Z. Technically, it's illegal, and really, it's treason. You can't just charge someone with treason. Like, and that's what Owen Shroyer doesn't understand. That's what most people don't understand. Like, these are not unsophisticated people that are conducting these crimes. That's why they can do it. That's why they've gotten to the highest levels of government to begin with, because they're really good at what they do. And they know how to manipulate the law, and they know how to cover their crimes, and they know how to commit crimes without actually committing a crime, or at least a provable crime. Like, what he's saying is, like, just drag them out there, charge them with treason, take them in front of a firing squad and shoot them. That's what I want. It's not how our system works, Owen. And maybe that's how the Democrats do things, because they will. They'll just snatch people up, charge them with crimes, put them in a prison cell for a couple of years, put them in solitary confinement, don't allow them due process. Like, that's not what we're about. We can't operate in the same way. That's just as evil as the evil that we're trying to fight. Whoa, real quick, we got a couple of super chats. Jay Witt in the house. Jay Witt was actually calling me a second ago. ATL tapping in. Appreciate the debate reaction, Gary. 100%. I'm pushing toward 100,000 subs. What goal are y'all chasing this year? Grace or peace? Folks, if you're not following Jay Witt, make sure you go give him a follow. Let's help him get to 100,000 subs. He deserves it. He deserves it. Oh, my God. This is like the worst super chat ever. Not really. Gary for senator. I know it would drive you nuts. Yeah, that's not happening. Look, I think that there is so much more. Look, if I genuinely thought that I could affect change becoming a politician of any sort, I think we can do more outside of the system than we can within. And look at it. I mean, I think most of us agree, like, there are certain people in the social media sphere that are more influential than by far any of the politicians out there. So that's what I want to do. And I want to have the freedom to do that without worrying about, all the things you got to worry about if you're a senator and or any sort of politician. I don't want anyone controlling what I say or what I do. And I'm not going to allow that to happen. And I think once you start getting into politics, you are going to have to subject yourself to that one way or the other, for sure. Wilson says the Constitution is bad because it's anti-patriarchy. He's a Buchananite, but got to give it to him. Here, he wins hands down. Love you, Gary. Thank you very much, old mean lady. We love you too. Look, there's lots of things that I disagree with Andrew on. What I like is the fact that he stays reality-based, right? Truth-based. He gives his opinions, and then he backs those opinions up with certain aspects that support them. Doesn't mean that it's correct, but that's different than just debating facts, and that's what he does really well. As these are the facts, and just like what he said a minute ago, I couldn't agree more. I don't care what the Trump administration does at this point, to some degree, right? There's nothing that would justify me not voting, because the Democrats are so much worse. They are dedicated to the destruction of this country. Trump, whether you agree with him or not, is a true patriot, understands the power that the United States wields when it comes to economic might, military might, and he throws that around and uses that to our advantage better than anybody else on behalf of the American people. Democrats, they truly believe that the United States needs to be knocked down a few notches. They truly believe that we shouldn't be a world power. They truly believe that this was a nation that was founded on evil principles, or whatever you want to call it, right? So they don't believe in America to begin with. And they think, look, they believe the communist agenda, they believe in one world government, and that's what they're fighting for. And you can see, like, there is no sane person on earth that would run a country and say, you know what, we should have open borders. And not only should we have open borders, we should allow everybody in. We shouldn't vet them. We shouldn't worry about if they're terrorists, if they're murderers, if they're rapists. We shouldn't worry about any of that. And then on top of that, what we should also do is we should also take from American taxpayers. We should take from the American people and give to these people for food, housing, medical, education, and everything else. And then eventually what we should do is also make these people American citizens. Look, there's probably at least I think the real number is probably around 30 million that we had come under Biden. Think about this. That's 30 million people, and we're like, well, thank God they can't vote. Yeah, they can't vote. But guess what? Their kids can. And this is what you don't realize, folks. Like the Democrats and the communist agenda, we went through the communist agenda that was outlined in 1961 last night. We probably should do it again today so you can see the reality of what they were planning, what has been successful since then, and how much more they have to go. But these people are thinking long term, and you're not. We're not. We're thinking about next year, maybe like next election cycle. That's what we're thinking about. These people are thinking 20 years down the road. So we got 30 million illegal immigrants. They have 2 kids each. 20 years from now, we have at least 60 million voters, American citizens that are going to vote Democrats. That's what they're planning on. They're thinking long term, and we're worried about the stupid Epstein files. And that is a psyop that was thrown out there by the left that morons like Owen Shroyer and other people are trying to beat this president up with. And that's all we're focused on. The Epstein files, PDFs, while they're thinking 20 years down the road. And they're not falling for our psychological operations because we're not really conducting any. They're not falling for our talking points. Like, that's the one thing you got to give it to the Democrats. They're blue no matter who, right? They are loyal. They are a cult unto themselves. They believe whatever their leaders say, and they're not going to be persuaded by anything that the Trump administration, just about anybody says. But yet we have weak-minded people on our side that get distracted by the Epstein files and are willing to throw the baby out with the bathwater and be like, oh, you know what? The Epstein files, nobody should vote. Everybody should vote for Democrats. It's wild to watch. It's wild to see how gullible Americans actually are.
Catholic charity groups, all the Jewish charity groups, all these groups all along the Rio Grande, all of these groups on the southern border, all the Democrats that brought them in, all the Biden administration that brought them in, all of them should have been hauled to jail.
Yeah,
and they weren't.
Except they have due process, Owen.
And what process have they started?
So hang on.
They haven't even started the process.
So how do you know the SPLC?
Because there's no results.
Tell me, how long were you aware of the SPLC investigation?
What are the charges? They're all financial crimes.
Hang on. Let's walk through this. When were you aware of the SPLC investigation? When they released it, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So when they released it, you're not aware of what the Trump Justice Department is investigating or not investigating.
Show me the evidence.
He said
you're the one who wants to talk about. There's no evidence of your claim. Lack of evidence. Lack of claim.
Hang on. He said multiple times that he wants to bring James Comey up on charges. Right? He said multiple times that he wants to go after these
Those charges got dropped.
Instructing his Justice Department to investigate these things. We're finally starting to see the fruit. My evidence.
Thank you for this, Tammy. That was very timely. I did mention this at the beginning of the show. And we now have new charges, and I hope they stick against James Comey. We'll see how that follows through. But here's what he's talking about. All these things that these people are saying aren't happening. They are happening. And there's a lot happening behind the scenes that we're not even aware of. I mean, we're 16, 17 months into this thing. So you got to pay attention. Yeah, go ahead.
Why does Owen and Candace and people like that think that they should get evidence before the case is tried?
Because they're retarded. I mean, literally, like they think they're the arbiters. Like some of these people, especially Candace, they think they're the arbiters of truth. And on top of that, they don't realize how much their assessment of any situation is, basically predicated on their really ignorant worldview. So
and feels
and vibes. Yeah. It's not about facts. It's not about evidence. It's about what they feel. And this is the whole thing too. It's like, yeah, I feel like that a lot of people within the Biden administration committed treason. Does that mean that we can just charge them with treason? No. Like same thing, it's like there's probably some illegal activity that we can find that you're going to be able to charge them with and successfully prosecute them with, but it's not going to be treason. And yeah, Trump, just like if I was running for president, I'd be like, man, these people are committing treason. And then you get in office, you start investigating. It's like, man, there's not much evidence of anything because they did a good job covering their tracks from the very beginning and operating with, they're just operating smartly. They were sidestepping the law and they were undermining and being subversive to this country. And sometimes you can do that without breaking the law at all. But we see it for what it is. And I would be campaigning like, man, these people committed treason. And we get into office, we start investigating. It's like, There's actually like nothing we can actually charge them with. Not because they didn't commit crimes, but because we don't have the evidence to actually charge them with. And being a law-abiding citizen and somebody that believes in the Constitution, we can't just drum up some charges and hope they stick. That's not how, people operate, or they shouldn't. So it's a great question, though. And I get people's frustration. The fact is like the Democrats are willing to do things that on both ends of this. Number one, committing crimes and or charging people with crimes that Republicans, thank God, aren't willing to do. And it's because the Democrats, the liberals, the communists, the socialists, the globalists, they hate our country. And they are the enemies of us, for sure.
Is we're finally seeing the fruit with the SPLC. I'm guaranteeing you that there's going to be other organizations which are indicted for various things like this. This is exactly what it is that you said that you wanted. It's at least a step in the right direction.
They've only been charged for financial crimes. They need to be charged for
treason.
So
was Al Capone.
They need to be charged for treason.
Yeah, Al Capone.
There we go.
Al Capone was not charged for his mob hits or for bootlegging.
Wait a second. Charged with financial crimes. You're not comparing Al Capone to 15 million invasion of this country.
It's the case that you go to jail for 15.
Al Capone is more of an American than Mayorkas.
If you go to jail for 15 years for the crime of murder, or to jail for 15 years for the crime of for some type of financial fraud, you can prove the one but not the other. Which one would you go after?
I would go for it all. That's what the feds do. That's what they did to me.
No, you wouldn't. If you could prove one but not the other, you would go after the one you could prove.
No. They always overcharge so they can get you a plea and get their incarceration rate and get their conviction rate. I would know. I've been through it before.
Sure.
Regardless, we're talking about almost 2 years into this administration and no deep state arrests. None.
Who do you want to see arrested?
I just told you Mayorkas.
I just want to make a point here. We've heard dozens and dozens of claims made by Owen Shroyer. How much evidence has he outlined to prove any of it? Zero. Zero evidence. Zero evidence. He has lived in a world that a reality that he wants to exist versus the reality that we're in. He wants to be able to charge these people with all these crimes and prosecute them successfully, but he can't point to the actual crimes. Like, he doesn't even understand how the system works at all.
There's one. How about the Obama administration? How about John Brennan? How about James Clever? How about James Comey?
Tell me what your process would be to arrest them.
Okay. First of all, Dan Bongino, who was the deputy director at the FBI, spent 8 years writing books and doing a podcast all about arresting these people. He gets in there and does none of it.
Yeah. So the same Dan Bongino who talked about what was going on in the Epstein files ad nauseum, how none of it made sense.
And then changed his mind.
Because he went in and saw. Here's what's funny. Why would anybody ever want to go work for the Trump administration from the private sector, especially somebody like Dan Bongino, if it's the case that he goes in, looks at the evidence, reviews it, and says, actually, I got this wrong, and you guys fucking crucify him for it. You crucify him for saying, look, I got this wrong.
Folks, we were all sold on an idea what the Epstein files were, and it's not what they are. Including Dan Bongino, before he saw any of this stuff. And Dan Bongino talks about this on a pretty regular basis on the show. I don't listen to him that often, but every time the Epstein files inevitably comes up and he talks about this, I've never heard him say, I'm wrong and I'm sorry. But what he said was, I got in there and I looked at what was actually available and it was all horseshit. It was not that you could say all of it's true. Let's say every bit of it's true. Every worst possible scenario that we can think of, let's say it's true. If you don't have the evidence to take it to court and actually have, any sort of charges pressed against these people, what are you going to do? Just make them up? You can't. And like Dan Bongino talks about this all the time. We all wish we could we all want to look underneath the hood of the government, right? We all want to get in there and figure out where the corruption is. The fact is, the corruption is so spread out, and there is corruption without a doubt, but it's so spread out, and there's so many people covering for one another, and they're still not in jail for a reason because they know what they're doing. And this is why you just can't allow them in office. This is the whole point of all of this. That's why, not voting in the midterms is not the solution. That's the answer to your destruction. I mean, how stupid can you get?
And it's like, why would anybody ever want to go work for the Trump administration if that's going to be the case, Owen?
Imagine that. You give us a little peek into what's going on in the Epstein files, and it makes people even more aware and more suspicious, and then you say there's no there there. If anything, our peek at the Epstein files showed us that there is something serious there. Very serious.
You've never, look, not only have you never provided any evidence for that, but your other problem is you didn't actually answer my question. What incentivization would like, let's say Trump drafted you to go to his administration to investigate these things, and you went in good faith and you did. And you came back and you were like, look, I took a look at all this evidence and I was wrong about this. And then all of your friends and cohorts and everybody else who was cheering you on fucking crucified you for it.
You know what, Andrew? It's funny that you say that because that's literally happening to me right now.
From who?
That's literally happening to me from this new MAGA right cult.
Who?
All right, folks, I really want you to pay attention to what he says here. And I really want you to kind of compare and contrast what he's claiming that the Trump administration is doing to him compared to what the Biden administration actually did to him. I think this is it's a very important part.
I already did this. I already put my time in.
Yeah,
I was arrested.
Crucifying
Hold on
you
a second.
for it.
Hold on a second.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. For four different times, I was arrested for supporting Trump. Okay.
Yeah.
Now
All incorrect, by the way.
Now, you like Trump. I don't like Trump. Now, beyond the point,
Yeah.
I already went through that crucible. I already put my face, my name, my neck out there. And it's not even that I necessarily did it for Trump. I did it for the truth because I believed Trump was innocent and I wanted to support
But
him.
how
So
are you
I've
being
already been through that.
crucified?
I have MAGA people putting me on lists. I have
What
MAGA
list?
people doxing me. I have MAGA people sending people to my house. I have Laura Loomer in my box all day telling me she's telling Trump to post negatively
That
about
was
me.
typified.
Trump posted something about me. He told me to shut the fuck up. So I got arrested 4 times for this guy, spent months in prison for this guy, did everything for this guy, censored, lawsuit, everything, lost all my social media, kept supporting him. And then what is the one recognition I get from him? Fuck you, shut up. I don't even care. I did it because it's the truth. And now the truth is this administration has turned against us. MAGA has now been weaponized against us. And Trump is now the very globalist that we were supposed to get out of the White House.
This is ironically hilarious. So the first thing that you claim, you say, hey, look, I was crucified for my support of Donald Trump by Democrats. Do you agree? It's by Democrats.
Well, actually, first it was by Republicans because we were going up against.
It's never Trumpers.
Yeah.
Like you are right now.
No, I'm not a
So
never Trumper.
anyway,
I voted for him 3 times.
What happened is, well, and now you're like, oh, he's the worst thing ever.
No, I'm
when you're
saying
talking about
he's failed. This
Yeah,
administration
he
has
hasn't failed. And when you're talking about this, Democrats were the ones who persecuted you. Democrats were the ones who threw you in jail. They were the ones who didn't want to give you a fair trial. Me and my wife, we advocated for the release of J6ers everywhere that we possibly could, yourself included.
And I will give Trump
Okay.
that. That is the biggest victory.
Yeah,
I would never
huge
regret
victory.
voting for Trump because he did that.
Yeah,
Never.
huge victory. Okay. But not only that, let's dive into this a little bit deeper. When you're talking about your supposed crucifixion now by the right, Trump hasn't shut down your channels. He hasn't done any of that. Under Biden, that was a sure thing.
Well, let's
to have
not
happened.
be so sure that's not going to happen soon.
You say gonna, hasn't though.
Here he is. He absolutely gets shut down by the Biden administration, who was working in coordination with Facebook's, Twitter at the time, YouTube. Like, there was active collusion between the United States government and different social media platforms to suppress conservative voices, to not only suppress them, but to persecute them and make sure that their message did not get out. That's not happening under Trump. It's not. He's not Trump isn't the one that, here we are. Owen Shroyer, the crazy thing about this, he's advocating to put these people back in power, whether he realizes or not. If he's saying, hey, don't vote for Trump, hey, it's a complete failure. Like, the fact that none of that stuff is happening right now under Trump, isn't that a better environment than what we would be if you don't vote for Trump? Like, what other options do you have? A lot of these never Trumpers, a lot of the Republicans out there would continue to allow that to happen. Like, oh, well, we can't mess with big business. Like, I have a whole philosophy on what should be taking place with social media. We can talk about that another time. But here you have these neocons that are still like Lindsey Graham and many others that wouldn't do a single thing until they're actually, if they get silenced on X, if they get silenced on social media, then they'll start to care about it. But as far as the little people out there and the conservative voices out there, they don't care. They're so buddy-buddy with Democrats. They don't care. They don't care. And so for Owen Shroyer, whether he's wittingly or unwittingly advocating for these people to be back in office, again, He's advocating for himself to be put back in prison and other political dissidents to be put in prison, political opposition to be put in prison. He's advocating for censorship. Folks, you don't think that if the House, the Senate, and especially the executive branch are taken over by Democrats, you don't think we're going to see the same censorship that we were seeing? Like, it's still pretty bad on YouTube. It's still pretty bad on Google. It's still pretty bad on Facebook. We have X that's sort of, I don't know what's going on there half the time. I think they're, basically Elon Musk has a bunch of holdovers that are still, there's something going on there, right? I think there's definitely some suppression. I think a lot of people agree with me on that. But the point is he's advocating for his own demise, and he doesn't even realize it. He doesn't understand how much better it actually is. Can we look in the future and say, you know what, we need to get some better candidates? We need to be looking for a better candidate for 2028. Fine. But don't shoot yourself in the foot by saying that Donald Trump is worse than Biden. That's essentially what they're saying.
Okay, under Biden, it was.
Isn't that the whole point? Is none of this stuff has happened under Trump, and you're saying, oh, but it could.
Hang on, under Biden, no, it's not. Under Biden, it would have, for sure. He was working with Facebook and these other groups in order to shut down people who had podcasts. You have a voice right now. That's true. The president of the United States might have told you to shut the fuck up, but he still gave you a platform. Tell him to shut his fucking mouth. That's the distinction.
No, Trump did not. That's the First Amendment. That is the First Amendment. It was given to us by the founding
Biden
fathers.
didn't give a fuck about the First Amendment.
And
he
neither
was
does
working
Trump.
with the tech companies to shut you down.
Trump doesn't care either. They'll censor us under Trump. They already did. He did nothing.
Where?
What are you talking? When did I get censored? What year?
No, the Trump administration.
I was censored under Trump 1. I was censored from 2018 to 2022.
Trump's administration censored you. What
did he do for it? What did he do to end the censorship?
That's different. You got to make a distinction.
No. You're the one making claims that Trump did something for me.
Yes, he did.
I'm not asking Trump to do anything for me. I'm saying that
he instructed his Department of Justice to stop putting pressure on Facebook and these other groups for censorship. He promised he would do that.
But that is happening. That's why he just brokered the deal to give the Ellisons everything so that they can censor the internet in favor of this war and foreign policy that's unpopular.
Where's that happening?
Right now. It just happened with TikTok. It just happened with Paramount.
No, TikTok, they talk about the war constantly. I know. I'm on TikTok arguing with them constantly.
Ellison and Oracle are about to have all these databases. They're going to sell all of
in the
private
future
information.
Soon. But you've been wrong about futures before. And by the way,
wait a second.
Hold on. Now.
Okay, hold on a second.
I'm talking about
hold
right
on a
now.
second. When Doge ended, and then Musk called the Epstein files a hoax, and then struck Iran, I was called a panicking. I was called a panicking because I knew it meant we were getting into a war with Iran and a regime change war with Iran. I was called a panicking. I was called a panicking because if he did this, the MAGA coalition would be destroyed. And I was called a panicking because I said if he does this, we're going to lose the midterms. And now all three things of those have happened.
Except
you were
also wrong
one.
about Venezuela.
What was I wrong about Venezuela?
In Venezuela, you said that there's a good chance there that we're going to be bogged down on a war.
Never said that.
You did too.
No, I did not.
You said it on your show. Yes, you did.
No, I did not.
You said there's a good shot there. You were in a debate when you said it, in fact, with a caller. It's a good shot there would be bogged down as well.
What are you talking about?
That's what's funny to me. It's like every time I dive in to your view, it's always, down the road, he's going to do these bad things. Down the road, he's going to do this. Trump's administration hasn't censored you. Trump's administration didn't jail you. Trump's administration didn't do any of that. You just gave him credit for getting you released. And not only that, when we're talking about the economics of this thing. We diverted into this, which is fine. I think that speech is something that we need to debate about. But when we're talking about the economics, you still haven't actually told us how it is that you, Owen Shroyer, are going to make an offset for net negative migration without prices going up. There's going to be
cut taxes.
That's an adjustment period.
You can cut taxes in a year.
Do you think that prices are going to immediately decrease because you cut taxes?
Prices don't have to decrease. You have more money in your wallet. You have more money in your bank account. You're not paying it to the government.
Again, those are adjustment periods that are incremental. It would be so if you cut taxes immediately.
Takes 1 year.
And by the way, Trump doesn't unilaterally have the power to do that. He doesn't unilaterally have the power to just cut taxes. That has to go through Congress. And so this idea that you have, one thing he did do, and he did do well unilaterally with his executive orders, was with migration. And he did get us to the point where we're at a net negative of migration. Who would ever have given us that? Who out of anybody in the field would ever have given us net negative migration?
If Trump has a positive, it's definitely on the migration issue, but it's not perfect. He's still giving Chinese students, he's still letting Chinese students into these universities to save their ass. He's still letting the 50%
decrease of the H-1Bs. But the Cato Institute recently said, in fact, cut down 136,000, 50% of the H-1Bs eliminated under Trump's policy. So yeah, it's true. Chinese immigrants can still come in and study under H-1B visas, 50% less of them. That's correct.
So don't you think that there should be an adjustment period, just like you said with taxes? Shouldn't there be an adjustment period for hiring Americans? Because what happened was that the farmers, agriculture, all these big businesses said, Trump, we have to have this cheap migrant labor.
That's correct, yes.
And so he caved and he let the donors get what they want. That's what Trump does. This is a donor class administration.
In this case, not only did he not cave, but the opposite happened.
What are you talking about? He's doing mass deportation?
No. He gave subsidies. And yes, there has not only has there been big time deportations, but it's border crossings. It's just new ones even coming in versus self-deporting is an amazing feature at a net negative. Same with immigration internationally, which means legal immigration. So yeah, he did deal with them with subsidies. That was designed to keep the prices down. But again, if we follow your policy, which would be mine, you want them all out, right? I want all the Mexicans who are working illegally out of here.
I would say you can't, there's too many, but I would say you have to do at least the 15 that came in under Biden.
Well, you want to get rid of, I want them all gone. I want all the illegal immigrants gone, don't you?
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay, great. So if we get all the illegal immigrants out of California.
But Trump's not doing that.
Hang on. If we get all the illegal immigrants out of.
All right. This is another false narrative that keeps getting pushed because suddenly we kind of withdrew from Minnesota where there was all these issues and everything that was going on. We're still conducting deportations in Minnesota, but for some reason, this has turned into like we just stopped doing deportations around the U.S. Folks, there's all kinds of deportations taking place every single day, and there's no like publicity about it because these are states that are working with the state and local law enforcement that are actually working with ICE and actually deporting people. And no, there's nobody's getting killed over it. No crazy things are happening. They can't come there and get a news camera on what's happening and create a narrative out of it. So you don't hear about it. So these idiots like Owen and those on the right, these doomers like, no deportations are taking place at all. Folks, there's deportations taking place every single day in this country. Right now, just in 2026, we have 234,236 total ICE removals just this year. All right. Daily, weekly paces hovered around 1,250 to 1,400 removals per day. Per day. That's what's taking place. But because we don't have cameras covering it all the time, which is a good thing, because the more cameras we get on it, the more attention it's going to get to the left, and the more they're going to try to get in there and try to, cause chaos with it and create sort of narratives with this. So the Trump administration is doing this professionally and quietly, out of sight, out of mind, so that they can't create a bunch of controversy around us removing illegals. It's happening every single day. Would I like that number to be tripled, quadrupled, 10x'd? Absolutely, I would. We got 30 million illegal immigrants that came into this country under Joe Biden. I would like to see them all removed under President Trump's by the time that he gets, the end of this term. Is that going to happen? Probably not. So we got a lot more work to do. Will that get solved by allowing the Democrats to win the midterms and ultimately 2028? No. Because what's going to happen come 2028, we're going to have 60 million between 2028 and 2032. We're going to have 60 million illegal immigrants coming into this country, and then we're screwed forever. We'll never win another election in 20 years. Never. And chances are, if they do win, they pack the courts, which they will. They've already said they're going to pack the Supreme Court. All right, they're going to give these people amnesty and give them a road to citizenship within 3 to 4 years. All these 30 million illegal immigrants that just came in under Biden, never mind the 40 to 50 to 60 million illegal immigrants that were already in this country, they're all going to get citizenship. They're all going to be allowed to vote. How are we going to win an election? We never will. The leftists will have control of this country, and that's what they're vying for. And that's what this moron over here on the right-hand side of the screen is advocating for, whether he realizes it or not. And that's what all the black pillars are telling you to do. That's what all the freaking doomers are telling you to do. That's what the Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, that's what they're trying to get you to do. Because they don't care. They're rich. They don't care. All they care about is views and more money. Hell, Candace can go over to the UK and live in a castle somewhere with freaking John Mappin.
California tomorrow. right? What happens to the price of produce? Does it go up
Well,
or
we
down?
need an adjustment time, Andrew.
Hey, that's my whole point. We would need an adjustment time.
So we
Owen.
both agree that mass
So what
deportations
you're
is a
doing-
failure of
what
the
you're dealing-
administration.
What you're
All
dealing
right,
with right now is an adjustment time due to the. How is net negative migration a failure?
We're not getting mass deportations. That's
You
what we're
don't
talking
have to
about.
massively deport people who aren't coming in, dude. You don't have
They're
to.
already here.
Yes, and by the way, he's going after the criminal elements of those people first, which he's been doing. There's a net negative of them crossing into the border. If you had said day one with any Republican administration, we'd have only 1,000 border crossings a day versus 46,000 border crossings a day. You'd say it's the biggest fucking success anybody had ever seen.
How about this?
Somehow with Trump, though, Trump gets exactly that done day one.
No.
And Owen goes, well, what have you done for me lately?
What is the number? What is the number that you would be happy with of deportations for Trump's 4 years?
Overall number?
Yeah.
Probably I would want to see like happy with, you said, versus what would be optimal that I'd want to see.
Let's put a reasonable but good expectation number.
I mean, I would be happy if it was the case that we had no new immigrants coming in. I think that's a massive
Well, we
success.
agree that Trump has had a success. Okay. Let me answer my own question, then you can respond.
Yeah.
I think if Trump doesn't deport at least 15 million people, which seems like an impossibility, but they came here, we can get them out. There's
Yeah.
strategies to do it.
Yeah.
I think 15 million. If it's less than that, I think we got a problem.
Well, the entirety of the basis for the 15 million number, you would agree with me, there's way more than 15 million illegal
Probably like
immigrants here.
40, maybe.
Or 50.
Yeah.
30 seconds.
It's very high.
Yeah.
So if it is the case that it's very high that we have this amount of illegals that are here, that's going to take a long time. And Trump has Trump has been hampered. He was moving towards this. He's been hampered in the courts, again, 3 times the amount of injunctions any other president when it comes to illegal immigration. And he's trying to unilaterally do this because Congress isn't working with him. He's hamstrung at every level. He's using executive orders to push that through. And it's been wildly successful with the tools that he has. You have to say that that's successful. A net negative migration.
I've said that that's the one success, but I just
That's the
don't think,
big success.
I just don't think that it's going to be where it needs to be. I think that he's caved on the mass deportations. And at the end of the day, as much as both of us would like to see every single.
And what ties right into this, being that PDF is such a huge issue with all these people, which it is, right? I mean, I'm not downplaying that. I mean, we're all disgusted by it, which is why it's such an effective talking point. This is why it's such an effective weapon, because we're all disgusted by the idea of PDFs coming into this country and that type of activity taking place, especially when it's taking place and it's not prosecuted or persecuted, right? So that's the problem. But here's the deal. I just had Craig Sawman-Sawyer on our live stream last night. Folks, if you haven't watched that, that's what he's doing right now. He is fighting human trafficking. And one of the things he talked about, how much less that is happening under the Trump administration versus the Biden administration. He said it was so much worse under the Biden administration because it was so easy. We had child trafficking taking place at unprecedented levels in history under the Biden administration. If Owen Shroyer, that's his main thing, and that seems to be all these people's main platform, like PDF this, PDF that, the Satanist cabal of pedophilia, then like you got to look at this and say, hey, not only for this the lifeblood of our country, because this immigration, to me, the mass immigration that we saw under Biden, there's no way to prevent the destruction of our country if that continues to take place. That is what that's going to be. But if you're worried about child trafficking, there has never been a time here in the United States that it was worse than under Biden, with all of these tens of millions of illegal immigrants coming across. Like, this is all he should care about. And I'll be honest with you, if the Trump administration got nothing else done, forget about the fact that we've cut homicide rates to the lowest they just about have ever been, is like 50% been cut compared to Biden. Opioid deaths are way down. Crime is way down. Forget about all that. I mean, if the Trump administration did nothing, but in the 4 years that he was president, he closed the border the way that he has, and we continue a net negative migration, man, that is a win through and through. What other administration is going to do that? Only Trump.
Illegal immigrant deported. I think that
but if
bigger
they are,
issue,
the prices are going to go up, right?
I think that you get that by not getting into another war
Through
in the
an
Middle East.
adjustment. The war in the Middle East, are you kidding me? You think that that's the budget buster in comparison?
Absolutely. He's asking for
to entitlements?
$1.5 trillion in the next defense budget.
Nothing.
We pay $1 trillion in interest on our
Do you
debt.
know what our entitlements are? in comparison to
them all.
military spending.
Cut
But
them
that's
all.
my whole point. When we're talking about entitlements, the number one spending, not military. That's one.
I think
The second-
I think interest is about to take entitlements.
Yes, well, maybe, but the number one spending right now is entitlements is 3 times higher than military spending. 3 times higher. Most of those entitlements are coming in because of illegal immigration and mass migration. You know this. I've heard you say it yourself.
I have a zero tolerance for any welfare.
Yeah, I've heard you
Zero
say it
tolerance.
yourself. So if that's the case, you're not going to be able to do this without a transitory period where prices go up.
It's been a
when
year.
you see all of
It's
these
been over
jobs,
a year.
first of all, real wage growth have gone up 1.3% because the jobs are finally going to
The
Americans.
economy's bad. You can throw numbers every day. The economy is bad. More Americans are living paycheck to paycheck.
Are real
More
wages
Americans
up
are
or
in
down?
debt. Down.
Okay, so how far down are they?
They're as down as they've ever been.
They've ever been. They're living paycheck to paycheck. Again, these are talking points. These aren't statistics. This isn't facts. This is emotional appeals. This is what they do. This is what the Democrats have always done. I don't understand why we're tolerating this from people that are supposedly on the right. We've never tolerated this. Like, no. Don't talk to me on emotional appeal nonsense. Like, give me the numbers. Give me the numbers. But now people want to turn against Trump, and that they're okay with this ambiguous nonsense that they're just talking points, just tropes, just information operation nonsense. That's what this is.
If they're as down as they've ever been, ladies and gentlemen.
Anybody can cook these numbers. We just
These,
saw the
these
Biden
wages are
administration.
as down as they've ever been. No, the wages are up.
Are you going to tell?
real
Are you going to
wages.
tell Americans that they're doing good financially?
I didn't
today?
say there's not room for improvement. We're talking about whether or not Trump is successful. I think that Americans would be doing worse if real wages were at net negative like they were under Biden.
This is
yes,
where we-
and that real wages have gone up 1.3%. It's a major thing.
And
We're
cost
at
of living
the-
has gone up 2.3%.
I'm going to look up some of the economic numbers here in just a second, but just to remind people, just when it comes to violent crime. So this not only relates to Donald Trump, but even Kash Patel, who I think I have my criticisms of Kash, but I think he's actually done a pretty good job just based on the numbers of being the FBI director. So key declines in violent crime, major cities data, homicide down 19.3%. Robberies down 19.8%. This is just from 2025 to 2024, by the way. So we've continued to make strides. Aggravated assaults down 9.7%. Rapes down 8.8%. I mean, this is, let's see, motor vehicle thefts down 27%. Residential burglaries down 17%. Larceny theft down 11%. Shoplifting down 10%. So I mean, there is no comparison between Trump and Biden just on the violent crime numbers. So again, I mean, it really, when you look at every single point that you could actually judge the Trump administration on, Trump's winning, hands down. The only thing they got is the Epstein files and the Iran war.
And guess what? That'll go down when you get rid of mass migration
We're at
and immigrants.
the conclusion of the open dialogue. Gentlemen, thank you very much. That was a riveting open discussion.
I think we take questions.
Yeah, I know.
By the way, that's how a gentleman debates. So
Now, are you looking for something truly worth your time this summer? DebateCon 8 is bringing 2 full days of high-level, no minds on versus 8 description. With that, thank you very much, folks. We are going to start the Q&A. If you can come down this aisle, this is where we will have your questions.
this is rigged. This is rigged right here.
100%.
How does she get first question?
100% it's rigged.
Check the ID.
She was
And
in the
folks,
front row.
I have to remind you,
We're the borders of this place.
for the Q&A, it's absolutely essential. We want to press you to get to your questions. No, I've got to. Rachel.
Okay, so since this is going to be disingenuously framed as Andrew loves Epstein now, I just want to say many of you were very happy about a lot of Owen's points on Epstein, and I am too. And Andrew did make clear we don't think he's good. We don't think pedophilia is good. Given that, since there are 30 to 40,000 girls 15 and under each year getting married in Iran, and there are 2.3 million girls and women living in Iran right now who were married before they turned 15. And this was not the case before this regime took over. There were 18 and up marriage laws prior to 1979. If we can get rid of this regime and the regime change eliminates this child marriage, in the millions. Would that be worth it to you? All of you who are upset about the Epstein files, would that be something that you would support?
Well, I'd have to know what the worth it payoff is. No, I'm inclined to say no too. I'm inclined to say no too, because Iran is not my country. We've been in the Middle East for decades, for my entire life.
So we only care about pedophilia when it's here. We don't care about 2.3 million children being married off to old men in Iran.
I care about fixing my country first, and I feel that our presence in the Middle East has not resulted in anything positive.
So then at least be honest that it's not about pedophilia.
It's not.
You do not care about pedophilia whatsoever. You're just ass mad. That's bullshit.
Well, if you want to change Iran, I'm sure that they'll take you over there. You can go over there and fight the regime change war of the administration if you care so much about it.
The point is,
No, I didn't. No.
The point is consistency. If the entirety of the consistency is, if Trump isn't actively going after pedophiles, he's supporting pedophiles.
Has
then
that
hang on.
been a statement about this war? He's never mentioned that Iran.
Hang on, let me make the point. If that is the case, well, why does he need to mention a thing that's known? But anyway, if it is the case that it's not consistent, hey, man, if Trump isn't actively going after what I think is a U.S. pedophile ring that I can't even prove exists, then he's supporting pedophiles. But over in Iran, where you literally see him blowing them up, where's the consistency there, man?
He blew up 200 school children. Nobody has mentioned fighting pedophilia as part of this war. It's a regime change war for Israel to get control of the Middle East. That's what this is all about. And so, no, I don't support that.
Are the Iranians? Is it
Iranians bad? Iranians bad.
Is it institutional to the? Is it institutional? Is it institutional to the Iranians under Sharia law?
A barbecue pit and a pool, then we can go police the world.
Can you answer the question? Is it the case that institutionally Sharia allows you to marry children or not?
I'm not interested in Sharia. I don't want it in my country.
Can you answer my question? Can you answer the question, Owen?
Yes, Sharia is bad. I don't like Sharia. I condemn Korea.
So then the idea that she has is in fact the case. She's talking about consistency. If Trump is covering for pedophiles by not arresting who you think are pedophiles with no evidence, then you're supporting pedophiles by not letting him kill them in Iran.
It's different. It's my country versus Iran. Okay, I live in America. I want to fix America. If you want to fix Iran, go to the Middle East. Nobody's stopping you.
And why is it that all of these woke right folks aren't on a campaign against Islam here in the United States? Not only do they not do that, they avoid that topic, and at times they carry water for Muslims and they carry water for Islam, and they protect Islam, just like we saw with Tucker Carlson going off the rails because Donald Trump made fun of Islam. I don't get it.
Not about fixing our.
It just shows you that they're not genuine about the whole PDF thing, because if they were, they'd be more concerned about Islam here in the United States, and they couldn't care less.
It's about the consistency of your logical position to say, oh, I'll oppose it in this one hand, and if Trump doesn't do that, he's supporting it. But on the other hand, if I take us away from killing them in Iran, that's not him supporting pedophilia. It's bizarre.
You want to go one more time?
No, I'm good.
Oh, okay. You got it.
Hey, how are you doing? So wouldn't being successful on at least your primary promise of a thing be considered success?
No.
Okay.
If I hit one home run in a 10-inning game and we lose, that's not a success.
So is it the case though that Trump has been hugely successful when it comes to mass migration? He has been successful in that arena, and that was one of his number one promises.
Yeah, I said yes. I said that's been a success.
Yes.
That's one of, like, if there's 10 issues.
But that's all negated by a 7-week war.
It's a separate issue, and he's failed.
All right. First, Andrew Wilson. I first learned about the Orthodox Church from you, and my family and I were just baptized into the church this past Christmas. Christ is risen. Second, Owen, you've made a lot of comments about prosecutions and reducing taxes, all while neglecting the fact that these require two other branches of government working with Trump. The judiciary branch has consistently blocked him and almost every single move he's made, and it's had to go to the Supreme Court I don't know how many times. Meanwhile, Congress, no thanks to Republicans in Congress, by the way, have dragged their feet on almost every single issue. So why are you putting all the responsibility on Trump when we've got two other branches of government?
Well, Trump appointed the attorney general, and she failed him. So he he did that. He appointed that. So I don't know.
It's not the judiciary, dude.
So I don't know what.
He's asking about the judiciary of radical judges, which have blocked Trump every chance they get. It was so bad, in fact, that the Supreme Court finally had to step in and say, look, sorry, California, you can't set immigration policy for the rest of the country.
Do you believe these judges are corrupt?
Many of them, yes.
So then why don't we do something about corruption?
Because in this case, corruption is a matter of spectrum between political ideology. Yeah. The Democrats believe that they're doing something which is well within the purview of federal judges to do. And it was within their purview to do until that was recently constitutionally lifted by the Supreme Court, who said federal judges in California can't anymore say, hey, Texas, this is going to be the new standard for immigration law. They were blocking Texas immigration law in radical courts in California, dude. He's been hamstrung at every level by.
And imagine when the Democrats take over the House, the Senate, and the White House, and they pack the courts. Folks. This is going to be standard. And now we have a Supreme Court precedent that is going to dictate. And by the way, we're going to have, they're talking about what, putting 12 or 12, I think, justices in the Supreme Court. So this is what's going to happen. And not only that, they're going to continue to flood the lower courts with activist liberal judges as well. They've already been doing this. This has been the George Soros strategy for a really long time. And this clown doesn't even understand what's going on. He doesn't understand how the system works. He thinks that the president can just work unilaterally anytime that he wants and does whatever he wants. And this is the problem with our education system. Like, clearly, Owen Shroyer and so many other people out there, they don't understand how basic civics, how these things works, what the president has authority to do and not to do. So ignorance is working against us on multiple sides.
By the judiciary. 100% that's true. The Supreme Court, which he appointed, he's had massive victories there.
Well, not according to him recently, but I just find it amazing that the Biden administration can make thousands of prosecutions and arrests within months, but this administration can't do anything about Epstein clients or about the deep state.
Thousands of arrests of who?
Myself and January 6th.
Yeah, so they were able to utilize the power of the media to paint all of you guys as being violent extremist insurrectionists in order to get.
And all of it was unconstitutional, and all of it was a corruption of the justice system, and all of it was a weaponization of the justice system. Is that what we want to do? Are we going to fight corruption with more corruption?
The public on their side. In this particular case, not only Democrats, but on your side, people have weaponized the media instead to paint Trump out as though he's part of some pedophilic satanic elite, thus getting the one thing he always had in his teeth was the media. And you guys have done everything you can to take that away through this obfuscation of Epstein and the Epstein files. When we have way bigger fish to fry in domestic policy for sure, and you still don't even have any evidence of any of those claims, which is wild.
This is for Owen. So if Trump could only do one thing that would make you change your mind, would you rather him act more on the e-files or where we're currently at with Iran? Which one is a bigger issue for you?
I would say probably bring the troops home, generally speaking. Bring them all home. And I think you win the midterms if you do that. I think you save face with everything. If you come out tomorrow and you say we're done in the Middle East and we're bringing all of our troops home, I think you sweep the midterms.
This is mainly for both of y'all. I just want to ask, how can we get our economy to rebound after the negative effects of the tariffs, especially on American manufacturing workers? I myself actually work at a industrial plant that produces grinding wheels for brakes. And our business, we had to increase prices a lot because costs of raw materials went up a lot because it was harder to import them because all the chromium and manganese comes from China.
Sure. So
I'm wondering, what is y'all's stance on how we could get the economy back and get the prices back down?
Well, I was a big fan and still am of tariffs. What the tariffs were used for, people get it wrong all the time. They think that it was just willy-nilly. It wasn't. What happens is if you have the North American Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA, so this means that these are tax-free imports and exports. So if Canada imports a bunch of stuff from China, who we have a 25% tariff on, and then just labels it Canada, don't they avoid any of our tariffs, the Chinese? Yes. So what that is it's closing back doors by putting tariffs on westernized nations. And there's no possible way, by the way, for you to raise revenue in the United States. You only have two ways to do it: taxes or tariffs. So Harris's idea was that she was going to get rid of the corporate tax breaks, and that was going to drastically increase prices because it has to. Trump's idea was that he was going to fight a tariff war with potential future enemies and people who are adversaries with us on the global stage now. Would you pick your poison? Which one would you want to see?
Yeah, I'm a little concerned. I think Andrew and I would probably agree with most these issues. I'm a little concerned about that you talk about your company specifically is so reliant on China. You know, this is something, whether it's Trump or the next president or Biden, all of our presidents have been put into a deep ditch because our Congress has sold us out to mostly West Asia, China. That's why everything is made over there. So now we're basically reliant. These minerals you're talking about, rare earth minerals, we're basically reliant. Pharmaceuticals, we're extremely reliant. And that's because Congress for the last 20, 30 years has completely sold us out.
Through bribes and kickbacks, by the way.
And so we're screwed on that deal. I would say I support tariffs too. I would agree with Andrew that I support tariffs. The problem that the president has, and he did get screwed, I think, by the Supreme Court on this deal.
He did.
But the problem that you have is we have so many corporate taxes, we have so many regulations. It's like you're already so deep in the hole. You talk about your company. What I'd like for President Trump to do, since the tariffs look like they're not going to work now, I'd like to see him get corporate tax rates as low as possible. I'd like to see him. Remember when he came in the first administration, he did that big display and he cut the red tape and it was getting rid of all this regulation. I think that's the best plan right now. I think we just have to get rid of as much regulation as possible, get rid of the corporate.
He's been getting rid of regulation left and right. I did a whole segment during one of our live streams talking about the different regulations that he has reduced that is going to increase our oil production. It's going to increase refineries being built here in this country. It was something like it takes like 25, 30 years or something like that under the Biden and Barack Obama administration with regulations to get a refinery built here in the United States. That has been reduced by almost half. We can get refineries built much quicker now. They've opened up additional leases and things like that so that we can get additional oil out of the ground here in the United States. So there has been drastic reduction in regulations. Now he's also talking about tax reform. The president can't do that on his own. Again, all of these frustrations that Owen Shroyer and all these other people point out, almost all rely on, our system that's going to require Congress enacting these laws. These are legislative actions. So you can only do so much. And we barely have a majority in the House and Senate now. It's single digits when it comes to the Senate, I know. So anyways, we don't make those successes by losing the midterms, moron. We got to build on the successes that we have. What we should be doing is, we can criticize the Trump administration, but you got to be highlighting the things that he's been able to accomplish, which are monumental on all areas. He has made monumental improvements for the lives of American people here in the United States. And we need to be focusing on that and say, yes, we still have more work to do. Yes, we still need to prosecute people. Yes, we still need to end corruption. Yes, we need to get taxes even lower. All the things that Republicans push for. But you want to go the direct opposite and you want to throw a fit like a petulant child, go right ahead and tell people not to vote. We're going the other direction. Anything that the Trump administration has been able to accomplish is going to be it's not only going to be completely wiped out, we're going to be in a hole much deeper when the Democrats are done. Real quick, let me hit a couple of these super chats. Laura Loomer just released mugshots of Candy's gay husband. She's dropping the hammer tonight. As a matter of fact, I will just go ahead and share this tab instead. Not that one. Maybe it's this one over here. This one. Here we go. Laura Loomer. I have obtained alleged mugshot of Candace Owens' British husband, George Farmer, from his alleged arrest in Nashville, Tennessee. Candace, do you want to explain this to your audience or should I? Last week you said you had nothing to hide. What's wild with this is not only does she clearly have some things to hide. I have researched this. I've tried to get a FOIA request. I want the body cam footage of the officers that actually conducted this arrest. I want to know why we don't have that information. And by the way, if you actually do any sort of background checks on Candace Owens or George Farmer, they are clearly omitting a lot of information. And I want to know how it happened, what they're doing. But more of this information is definitely going to roll out in the very near future. We'll keep that one up for just a minute because I love it. Owen is just butthurt because Trump didn't praise him. Probably. Thank you for your continued service, Gary. You've inspired me to start a YouTube channel. Also, my wife is getting tired of hearing me complain all the time. That's right. We can either complain or we can get things done, right? We got to be men and women of action, not just sitting back and, getting, whether it's me or your other sources of media where people are getting you all fired up. I want to motivate you to do something, because sitting there listening and knowing the truth and not doing anything with it isn't enough, folks. We're in 5th generation war. This is the battlefield that we're facing right now. We got to get more soldiers into the fight, and you guys got to be doing something. It's not enough to just sit back and go vote, every couple of years. You got to do more than that. I'm glad you're starting a YouTube channel, buddy. I love it. Owen, his demise, his total anti-Trump. I stopped watching him last September when he left IW. I saw him fall into the black pill. He is hurt. He's hurt. He wasn't the next Alex Jones. Alex is another discussion. Thanks, Gary. Alex is another discussion altogether. That is for sure. It's an interesting discussion.
And that is one that you can mostly blame on the Democrats, but the Republicans went along for the ride.
Trump extended his tax cuts and is going to continue to the extension of tax cuts. Not only that, he does want to get them lower. When he's talking about regulation, especially as we dive into this, you have to remember a couple things. The first thing is that he did get screwed on the tariffs. Okay, the best thing on planet Earth would have been for him to continue to raise revenue through tariffs. That way you can lower taxes. But how are you going to raise revenue, man? How are you going to raise revenue without tax increases or tariffs? You can't do it.
Can I make a suggestion, actually? What I'd like to see is I'd like a policy that if you're going to come here and work, whatever money you're going to send overseas, we're going to tax that at least 50%.
Yeah, remittances.
Honestly, I'd tax it at 80%.
But remittances will do hardly anything. That's the problem.
But
even if you tax
but it might not change much financially, Andrew, but people will stop doing it. They'll either stop coming here or they're going to stop sending the money home because we're just going to keep it.
People would still work in the United States. Illegal immigrants would still come in here, even if you had a 10% tax on remittances, because it's still way more money than they're going to be.
Then I'd go 80%.
Yeah, but you're never going to get 80% through. And that's not the thing Trump can unilaterally do. Again, you'd have to have both houses. In this case, at least Congress would have to act on that. So I love the idea.
We had Congress for a minute. We had Congress for a minute. Now.
Yeah.
But could you say that just the money being made due to the large amounts of goods we have to import from China, could that also boost it? Because China, they are far too big of an industrial power for us to just cut off. They produce half the world's steel. Yeah. They have 4 times our population, and they're.
Yeah, so this is an interesting comment from Beth Bowman. It says, the hell happened to these people? My friends is one of them. And all she says is Trump gave money to Israel, nothing else. It's like she flipped overnight and woke up with her nose stuck up Candace's ass. I think we've come to a point in time where we got to realize that their messaging is more effective than we give them credit for whatever reason. And we can analyze that to hell and back. I don't know why the anti-Israel messaging is so effective. I don't know why Tyler Robinson he's not the real shooter, is so effective. But what I can tell you is that we got to get the reason that it's being spread the way that it is because so many people are actively involved in it. And then we're over here, we're like, okay, we got this covered. Like, we know the facts. These people are dumb, and we write them off, and we just let them continue to grow. And we don't spread the message. Like, we're not out there sharing all this content, fighting the fight. Some of you are, but by and large, most people that are watching this are like, that's just how conservatives are for whatever reason. And I'm telling you, like, conservatives aren't built for the information war. I don't know why, because we're losing it. And we're going to lose our country over it. Like, you better readjust and recalibrate and reorient yourself a little bit and understand that this is where the fight is. Like, you got to get active on social media. And I understand there's people out there that don't have time, that are, raising families and all those things, all the things that us responsible Americans that have the rest of the country that we have to pay for. Like, we got to make sure that somebody's making some money. With that being said, you got to start taking this seriously and understanding that sitting by quietly and not fighting the fight on social media, it's not good enough anymore. You got to fight the information war with the truth. And they're doing it. They're doing it vigorously. They're outworking us left and right because their messaging is much more effective than we give them credit for, one reason or another.
Industry has been expanding rapidly for
That's
around
what the
70
tariff war
years.
was for.
Yeah, I
The
agree with
tariff
that.
war was designed to weaken the Chinese economy as much as possible. And Democrats and some of the never Trumpers and some of the Republicans who don't like Trump really went after him for tariffs because they made the same argument. Well, good prices are going to increase. Yes, of course they are. But what's the alternative? If you have Kamala Harris comes in and she takes out the corporate tax, right? The corporate tax decrease.
These are the accusations that I do believe that he was actually charged with. I was reading the comments. Someone said George was drinking and driving, had a loaded gun or something like that. I do believe that is correct, allegedly.
Prices of your goods still increase, except now you're not weakening your global adversary. So it's like, which poison you want to pick?
I would say too, if there's one thing, if you're gonna look an American in the eye and say, hey, we have a transitory period, they say this thing, short-term pain for long-term gain. That's probably the only one where I would look them straight in the eye and say, I'm square with you. If you need to do these tariffs to try to rebalance the global market and that hurts us for maybe a year and we can start producing steel, we can start bringing some manufacturing back, bringing Main Street back, that would be something that I would say, okay, Americans would believe in that cause, but the whole thing's been turned over by the Supreme Court now. So.
Hey guys, thank you for introducing me into orthodoxy.
You're welcome.
How
many people
preacher up here. Yeah. Bring out the holy water. Come on.
A question for both of y'all. I'm noticing a lot with foreign policy, especially in the last 50 years. I see myself asking this question: what kind of America do we want to be? Do we want to stay to our imperialistic roots, which is based from like the Spanish-American War? Our acquiring of Philippines, Guam, Grenada. Do we still want to be that imperialistic power in the world, which I'm totally down for?
I don't consider it an imperial power, but a hegemonic power. Yeah. And I think that that's the proper context. Americans are not imperialist and never have been. We don't have an empire, a traditional empire like what you'd.
I want to address this. Anglo Zombie 2485 makes a great point and highlights the importance of making sure that good information and truth is out there and not just a bunch of talking points or false narratives. Anglo Zombie says, latest surveys show majority of Americans agree Trump failed in Epstein. You guys censoring John instead of dealing with his points is why GOP losing House this November. I don't know what he's talking about there. I don't know if somebody got blocked or banned or put in timeout or whatever. Don't really care. This is the problem. All right. Andrew just clearly laid out that there is no evidence of anything that Trump could have done because there's nothing that's actionable inside of that. But that's not what people understand because they've been lied to. So if they don't support Trump on the Epstein files, it's based on a lie. There's nothing in there that's actionable. And this is why we can't allow these things to just continue off in the ether and just like be accepted as fact, even though, they're just being repeated over and over and over and over again. And then low IQ people just say, oh, well, I guess, there's a bunch of things in the Epstein files that should have, people should be prosecuted for, but Trump's protecting them. No, it's false. So maybe people's opinion is that. Doesn't matter. It's based on a complete lie. And that's why truth matters and not just everybody regurgitating BS throughout social media. Like this is how empires and or countries are broken up and destroyed is through lies, not through kinetic action, not through, nuclear warfare. All those things suck, right? And can't do that. But a country will be destroyed with information and propaganda and lies. And that's what's taking place. You people are duped into believing things that are not true. I don't care what the public opinion is on Trump and the Epstein files. The facts are that there's nothing actionable within the Epstein files. What do you want them to do? Just start charging people like a dictator taking people out like, oh, your name was mentioned. Let's bring you out here. Let's shoot you. That's what you people want. That's what you people expect. It's ridiculous. Wild to watch such ignorance after he just went through all of that. Wild to watch, Anglo Zombie, that you were so duped. I don't even know if you're a real person, a bot, or anything else. I don't really care if you are one way or the other. The fact is if you believe that nonsense, you should be outraged that you've been lied to about all this. And you should be outraged the fact that all these people that are pushing this stuff, all these social media people that are pushing the Epstein files, why are they not going through the Epstein files themselves on a daily basis and pulling out saying, look, I found actionable intel here. I found something that we can actually charge somebody with. This is a real name with a real problem, and this is credible evidence against them. They should be charged with this. Nobody's doing that. All they do is talk about the Epstein files because it's a psyop.
See with the British Empire, things like this. We're a hegemon, and the United States will brook nobody messing with their hegemon status. And when you guys think about it, I know how that sounds. You go, wait a second, I don't care for a hegemon. Yes, you do. Oh, yeah, you do. You care a great deal if you're a hegemon. You just don't know that you care a great deal if you're a hegemon. But let me just ask it to you this way. If it was the case that you could pick between two lives, the one life is there's a guy who lives up on a hill who has everything and can kick the holy shit out of you, and you could be that guy, or the guy he kicks the shit out of. Which way you rolling, man? Tell me.
Speaking of misinformation, I'll challenge you on this, Jeff. Someone that knows this case from beginning to end. I don't subscribe to Candace's theories, but I suspect Robinson is taking the fall for Twiggy Boy. What's your evidence? Why do you even think that? We have him confessing. We have his parents that turned him in. You have zero evidence. Like, you just pull that out of a hat somewhere and decided that you don't like Twigs and that you like Twigs. You hate Twigs more than you hate Tyler Robinson, so he needs to be the fall guy. You have no evidence of this whatsoever. Like, what kind of world are we living in where people just come up with this stuff, say it, they don't have evidence to support it? As a matter of fact, there's a mountain of evidence against that. The evidence that Twigs was the shooter, there is none. As a matter of fact, all the evidence supports that someone else did it, and that you're believing that in spite of a mountain of evidence. That's wild to me. I'm with you if you want to say that I think that it's unlikely. I have no evidence for this, and I will admit that, but it's unlikely that Twigs didn't know about this. I think he was involved in some way, at least with prior knowledge. I have a hard time believing that Tyler Robinson acted within a vacuum to do all. He may have. Maybe he thought Twigs would tell on him. Like, we don't know the actual personality of Twigs. Maybe he's a weirdo, and maybe he does a lot of drugs, but maybe he's really, against violence or something like that. We don't know his personality. We don't know what Tyler Robinson knew and why he would keep that from him. So, I mean, everybody's welcome to believe whatever they want. You need to examine whether or not you believe something based on evidence, or you're believing what's even crazier is when you believe in something in spite of evidence. It's like believing gravity doesn't exist.
Hey, Gary.
Yes, ma'am.
There are a whole bunch of court cases, civil, going out against people who were accusing residents and friends and family members in the Koberger case, the 4 college students that were murdered. Yeah. And people on the internet were going around saying, no, I think it was the mommy sleuths on the internet were attacking family members, fellow students, teachers, all kinds of stuff, and harassing them. And there have been criminal cases of harassment and civil cases for defamation against some of the mommy sleuths that were the biggest bullies about this stuff. So people better be careful what they're saying about Erica and about Trump and about other people at TPUSA, because they do have this will set precedents for them to go after these people.
The precedent for defamation and slander has been set a long time ago. It's a matter of whether or not they're going to act on it. And I think they will. Look, folks, that, slander is wrong. It's morally wrong. Forget about the courts. We shouldn't even have to involve the courts in this. At one time in society, we had grown adults in the room. And I remember seeing this all the time growing up, like where people would make accusations and I would hear them, whether it was on TV or in person. Like, I would hear accusations being made and people would challenge, like, what evidence do you have of that? You don't have any evidence? Then you need to keep your opinions to yourself. We don't have any adults in the room anymore that are like, hey, that's morally, ethically wrong to do. We should be self-policing ourselves. And then we should reject people that are making horrific accusations, like a wife that was involved in the murder and assassination of her husband. Like, we should reject that outright. Like, fine, that may be true, but provide the evidence. And if you can't do that, and then you go on to make, $60-80 million pushing that nonsense, because now not only is that discouraged and condemned as it should be, it is encouraged and incentivized and monetized. And that's where we have a society that's lost, because nobody could withstand that if that was happening to them. If something tragic happened in your life and you had nothing to do with it and you lost a loved one, and by the way, all the evidence says that Erica had nothing to do with this. And that's even moving. Like, I see the goalposts being moved. People are kind of now backing away from that she had anything to do with Charlie Kirk's murder, because we see more evidence that's come out that clearly indicates that Tyler Robinson was guilty, and that's going to be the verdict. But they're backing away from that and now just saying, like, oh, well, she's just a horrible person, shouldn't be in charge of TPUSA. So, like, it's none of your business. Like, none of that. And it's insane to watch. Like, the public has become corrupted. The lack of ethics and morals, I mean, we've just abandoned them. We've abandoned logic and reason, and everything that holds a society together, like, is being dissolved as we watch it. And not only that, this is accelerationism, right? This is part of it. Demoralizing the society. That's what's taking place. They're having you reject God. They're having you reject basic principles of the Bible. They're having you reject logic, reason, facts, evidence, so that anything can exist. I need to read those bullet points from the Communist Doctrine again tonight, because I think that covers a lot of this stuff.
You want to be the guy on the hill. So
I think I agree directionally, but I feel like Americans are the ones getting their ass kicked right now. That's the problem. I feel like Americans. What?
By who?
By our own government.
Oh, well, okay. Hang on. Yes, inside of a hegemonic.
I do want to just speed up the Q&A just slightly.
Yeah, very quickly. I'll just say, I agree with that. Yes, of course, especially from Democrats and progressives. They beat the holy shit out of the private sector in the worst way possible. I guess what I'm saying is, directionally, to answer your question, when you're talking about empire, we're a hegemon, not an empire.
I've got to go next one. Thank you very much.
Hey, firstly, thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Owen. My question is around immigration and the demographic shift. So my question is, with the U.S. turning into a country with a non-white majority, the concern is that the significant demographic shift will change the country fundamentally, and America will cease to be America. And this is echoed in the dissident right-wing spheres.
I agree.
And I want to quote Ben Shapiro here. He said in 2016, if I'm not incorrect, he said, "I don't give a damn about the so-called browning of America. Color doesn't matter. Ideology does." And this has caused massive infighting in the right wing. And my question is, do you associate with the mainstream conservative view that Ben Shapiro and MAGA spouts, or the more dissident and alt-right?
Well, I don't think MAGA spouts that. I think Ben Shapiro does, but I don't think MAGA in general spouts that. So I would answer it this way. Let's just agree with Ben Shapiro for the sake of argument here, that yes, under cultural nationalism, we'd want people who have the similar values to the United States.
I'll address this one, Jeff, again. It's effective because the FBI, CIA, and NSA can't be trusted and no one knows what to believe. You're right. They all lie. The government lies to you. People around you lie to you. You've lied to yourself. You've lied to other people. But guess who lies as much or more? And that shouldn't be trusted at face value for anything. Matter of fact, they lie more than the government. And that is social media personalities. They should be at the bottom of the trust. And the way that we figure this out, who's lying to us? Because the government lies to us sometimes, social media lies to us sometimes. The way that we figure this out is through logic and evidence. And guess what? When someone is telling you something, trying to convince you of something, and they can't provide the evidence, then reject it. It's as simple as that. Doesn't matter if it's the government, doesn't matter if it's social media. It's as simple as that. It, like, everything by default is a lie until you can prove it to me differently. Period. But what I can tell you right now is with the amount of evidence that they're going to put forward, the evidence that we know of, there is a zero room almost for anything other than take place when it comes to Charlie Kirk's assassination than what we're being told. Now, the next time that something like this takes place and we hear a narrative put out right out from the government or whatever else, is Gary going to accept that narrative right off the bat? No, I'm not. I'm going to go look for evidence. I might do what I did and go to UVU, actually look at the facility, look at the truth on the ground, interview people, examine the evidence that we have, examine the known facts, and make a logical conclusion based on that information. If there's room for possibility of others, or there's evidence presented that other people are involved and things like that, I'm going to take that into account. I'm not going to accept the government narrative. I'm not going to take the social media narrative. What I can tell you is we have proof. We have proof that you all have been lied to thousands of times now by thousands of different people on social media. Right now, I have no proof that the FBI lied about anything when it comes to the Tyler Robinson case. What have they lied about? Did social media lie about camera guns, about palm guns, about exploding microphones, about electrocuted? Charlie Kirk was electrocuted by a hand mic and he had burn marks on his. That's Baron Coleman's bullshit. These people love sucking you into a story. We all love a good story. We all love being captured by something. They lied to you about tunnels. They lied to you about the French Foreign Legion. They lied to you about Fort Huachuca. They lied to you about Mitch Snow. Like, how many times do the same people have to change the narrative and lie to you to where you say, you know what? Maybe it's not the government lying to me this time. Maybe it's these people. Like, those are all lies. Yeah, the government lies. Don't trust them. But sure as hell don't trust Candace Owens. She's lied to you 1,000 times more, and she does it every single day that she gets on that show and just spews lie after lie after lie after lie, and changes her narrative and changes the story and comes up with new anonymous sources that just spew lies. But you believe them because, yeah, you're right. We shouldn't trust the government. Don't trust social media either because they're worse. They're worse, and they're incentivized to lie.
States. Those do just so happen to be most of the white nations. I'm just pointing that out, that if you wanted to import people who had the most amount of your values, that does seem to be from the nations which are mostly white. So I would even grant Shapiro's argument because, I mean, how would that actually hurt the MAGA base to grant the argument?
Well, I don't think we are taking Ben Shapiro's statements at face value at this with this quote here. I think he means something a little bit different than we're perceiving. But nonetheless, let me give you an example of something I experienced that might put this kind of into a picture for you. When I was charged by the federal government and I was going through the process of defense, I dealt with a Chinese prosecutor. I dealt with, I think it was from Azerbaijan, I forget which country, a country in the Middle East, who was a magistrate judge. And then there was another prosecutor, I forget where it was. The point is, 3 foreigners that were now American were involved in my case. I had a free speech case. They even cite my speech as the reason for putting me in jail. Now, I don't know if it's the perfect example, but I look at that and I say, here's 3 people who weren't born in the country, who don't have that ingrained love of free speech. It's not in their heart. It's not in their soul. It's something they might have been taught. It's something they might have learned as like a textbook concept, but they don't understand the soul of it. They don't understand the spirit of it. And so that's where I think it starts to come into play. There's an American spirit. There's an American soul. You have to have it. You can learn it through a textbook, but when you come from a foreign country that doesn't, live and die by these ideas and practices, it's a little bit different when the rubber meets the road. So I do think it matters. It might not matter what your skin color is, but it matters that if you come from a country that doesn't value free speech, you really can't even comprehend what that means to Americans.
But even
I don't think you can.
Let's just say, for the sake of argument, very quickly, that it did. That everybody in the United States said, you know what? We just don't want mass migration from only brown countries. Let's just say that they did. So fucking what? We have the control to do that if we want to do that. Nobody bitches if Japan does that. Nobody cares. They don't give a shit. Right. Not a bit. So the thing is that if it's the case that you really want a democracy, you really want a republic, you really want the will of the people, well, mass migration in all Western nations is resisted by all people in Western nations. Isn't that amazing? They all hate it. Every one of them. In the UK, they mass voted against it. They hate it in Australia. They hate it in Western Europe. They loathe it in Eastern Europe. It's unpopular everywhere it's tried.
People as possible. Ready for you.
All right. So this Congress so far has only passed 83 bills, which is on track at this point to be the lowest of the modern history. So I want this from both of you, which is, what is your opinion on the current Republican Party, which Trump heads, and how they've misspent their trifecta in government and what it means for the political future of the party?
Yeah, so I would agree with Owen. So here's maybe an olive branch. Republicans aren't doing a great job. And it would be nice to see many of them in Republican primaries get primaried out by better candidates. I would agree with that 100%. I just think that you're going to need Trump's support to do that. 100% you're going to need his support to do it. So, I do think that ultimately we miss the forest through the trees. And what happens is we go, well, wait a second, if we
manifest destiny for life, baby, no joke, for real. Why does Candace and Barron feel like they're owed answers from America? I don't know. Because demanding answers from her, harassing her, tracking her plane, stalking her electronically has gained them a lot of views. And whether they believe they are owed answers or not, it's been extremely profitable for them. Going back to the Epstein files, I still see all the discussions going on with different people in the Epstein files. Like, you wouldn't even have the Epstein files if it wasn't for Trump. This is something that Andrew pointed out multiple times. Like, you wouldn't know anything about the Epstein files if it wasn't for Trump. And this is a DOJ issue that is, like, again, is really outside the purview of Donald Trump. What that's released, what's redacted, what's not redacted. I think a lot of what we thought the Epstein files were, I don't think most of it's true. I really don't. I don't know. Like, it's become a political bludgeon against Trump. That's it. So, take that for what it's worth. If we have the Democrats in there, look, the Democrats, there's elements of the Democrat Party. There's nobody within the Republican Party that's pushing for making PDF legal or anything else. There are elements within the Democrat Party that are. And I can guarantee you, under a Democrat Party, you're going to see much more of that, and it's going to be much more pervasive, whether that's through mass immigration and all the child trafficking that's going to take place in there. You have a supply. When the supply goes up, you have a demand issue, and it's just going to be much more prevalent. And then, God forbid, look, I think 10, 15 years ago, we all know what Manbla is. I think 10, 15 years from now, maybe sooner, like, this is going to be an issue of the Democrat Party. This is going to be a platform where they're going to be pushing for this stuff. And we've already heard people within the liberal community already talk about this stuff. So they are trying to normalize relationships with minor kids. They are. And whatever you think about Trump and how he handled the Epstein files, who cares? Who cares? The fact is that all the things that you guys are saying that he's protecting predators, that's a lie. You have no evidence of it. The fact that he is a PDF himself, that's a lie. And that's a lie that's been promoted to the point where now it's established fact in some circles, to where it ends up in manifestos of attempted assassin, people that are attempting to assassinate President Trump. So, I don't know what to say to so many people, like, you just can't let this go. And by the way, I question your authenticity when people are just so. A lot of times that I found that these are bots. And think about this. Who would love to push that narrative more than anyone other than Russia, China, Iran, or enemies of this country and political enemies? These are all talking points of enemies of MAGA. That's what they are. And MAGA by far, Trump by far, is the best chance that we have to continue freedom in this country.
Just accelerate and we wait until things get really bad, then somehow base candidates are going to come out of the woodwork and there's going to be new messiahs. That's not what happens. What happens is you live in 6 years of misery, and then you rush to the other party to offset the damage done. And all you do the entire time your party comes in is undo everything the other one did.
I'll give you a chance to respond, Owen, if you want, but then we got to
Yeah,
move to the next
I'll be
question.
quick. Yeah, speaking of Trump endorsements, I wish he wouldn't endorse people like Lindsey Graham right here in South Carolina.
I agree with that.
And you know, I've been given the thought process behind it. I don't like it. I think Mark Lynch would be a much better senator, and Trump used to campaign against Lindsey Graham. But I will say this in response to the Congress issue with Republicans.
Yeah, look, I think we need to get rid of certain Republicans. Lindsey Graham is definitely one of them, amongst others. Look, folks, we're going to go ahead and call it a day right here. Again, we're going to be back on the air in 30 minutes. Make sure you come join us with EJ Snyder. He is a fascinating character. We're going to talk about making sure that you're prepared for different scenarios, whether you should bug in, whether you should bug out. I think you'll find it a very entertaining and educational show, to say the least. Listen, I appreciate everybody that has tuned in tonight. Thank you for all your love and support. Thank you for the super chats. For those of you, if you haven't done so already, make sure you like, you subscribe, and most importantly, share this content. And if you'd like to support this channel, down in the description below is a link if you'd like to become a member. It's a couple dollars a month. It goes a long way to support what we do. Also, make sure you go follow us on all our other social media platforms. And on X, we offer subscription. Again, it's a couple dollars a month. It goes a long way, and we appreciate it. Folks, we will see you back here in 30 minutes. But until next time, and until 30 minutes from now, stay armed, stay ready, and we'll talk to you soon.